Hi, I'm Keith.
And I'm Darrell.
And I'm Brownie, and this is Rise of the Podcast. How's it going, Keith and Darrell?
Good. Some unfamiliar faces here.
Yeah, doing well.
Known from the internet, but not from reality until today.
Merged together.
All right, so as you guys can see, Jeremy and Kara are not here today. They had other responsibilities. So we got some fan favorites back in here. Keith, record holder for most guest host appearances.
Happy to be here.
And Darrell, who's rapidly catching up. Matt says, yay, welcome.
Matt Rasmussen.
Oh, of course, Matt Rasmussen.
Good to see you, dude.
So the first order of business, so we've been trying to do this new thing at the end of episodes where people suggest what we should start talking about in the next one. There's not a good name for it. I've got a terrible name for it that I'm not going to mention. But Swanky, as usual, he's 2 for 2 on getting the last comment in so far. So we got to try and dethrone him today, people in chat.
Absurd him if you can.
But his suggestion was to talk quickly about whether or not Marvel is oversaturating the market right now. And I'm curious as to what your guys' opinion are because, like, obviously they just did the big MCU 4-part thing or whatever, and now they're moving on to the next stage, and then they have all these television shows now on Disney+. So what do you guys think in regards to Marvel's market saturation?
Which order shall we go in? You can jump right in.
Sure. So for me, I did hit Marvel fatigue for a while. And the thing is, like, I love Marvel. The hipster side of me sometimes, like, Moon Knight's coming out, right? So, like, part of me is like, that's sweet. They've been knocking it out of the park. They've been doing really well with it. And I get to see these shows, the things I never assumed I'd get to see. But at the same time, I'm like, there is so much of it. I would say that my fatigue did come about Endgame, where I was like, we're done. We've wrapped it up. But I heard rumors of more stuff coming through. And I'm like, yes, I love Spider-Man. I want more Spider-Man. I love all these characters, but like it was just like where they hit. It's kind of like how the Pokemon games have just been rolling out fast. Like I want a few years to salivate on them, and then I go, all right, yes, now I really do want a new one.
Yeah, fair enough.
With COVID though, and everything being pushed back, and et cetera, it was kind of Walmart, I should say, right?
Yeah, well, I think we're beyond that.
Okay, we're good.
YouTube isn't just shutting videos down for mentioning it anymore.
Okay, that's good. So, I'm back into it now. Like Loki was really well done. I like what they did with Falcon Winter Soldier. So I just say Captain America. I enjoyed all of them so far. So like I needed that break. Had it not been for that break, I would have probably been off of it. And I'm excited for Moon Knight. I've been a big Moon Knight fan for many years now, and it's going to be cool, and I hope that they do something. My only thing out there, they need to add more to their plate. I do hope that they get some of the original Netflix ones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, all of them, Jessica Jones, back in. Even if they don't get their own series, don't screw them like that. Like, they were... Matt Murdock, the guy they had for him.
Yeah, that show was
way
amazing.
better than Ben Affleck.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And the Kingpin too, like to get Spider-Man involved with them, / even Moon Knight, more of those street level heroes, kind of all in that, would be just fanboy overload. So yeah, I don't disagree. I'm not going to argue with anybody who says that there's too much of it. I do agree that there is. It's everywhere. It's there. But I'm still gonna watch it because they're putting out quality stuff and
Swanky says never thought I would hear a silver lining to COVID.
Oh, there's lots.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All those. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna make a distasteful joke. Never mind.
So for me, I don't think the market's any more oversaturated now than it's ever been. Even before the MCU officially started, we were getting tons of Marvel movies, and I found it kind of overwhelming with Daredevil and Ghost Rider and all the Spider-Man. Fantastic Four, and a lot of them are great, and some of them are not so great. And I kind of follow the same way now that I always do, where sometimes people tell me, like, oh, this one thing they put out is super interesting, and it's a lot different than anything they've done before, and it's going to kind of blow your mind. And I found it to be true with WandaVision. I checked out WandaVision because somebody told me it was a lot different, and I totally fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And then other things... with Black Widow, which I haven't seen yet, a friend saw it and she said, you're really going to love it because it sets up all the next movies. And I'm kind of like, I don't really care. Like,
Yeah.
I never
like-
watch a movie because it sets up the next movie.
No, and I agree with that completely too. It's like I want a self-contained story that easily fits into the larger puzzle. That's as far as I would want it.
And like especially with Black Widow, I want to go back to WandaVision for a minute, but with Black Widow, it was so easy. Like nothing surprised me in that movie. Everything I called, I was like, oh, that's gonna be that. That's gonna be that. And I mean, it's part of being filmmaker. Like you see those paces, you see those reasons. Like, oh, they lingered on that shot too long. That's gonna be important later. Blah blah blah. So like that already ruins it. And it was a good popcorn stuffer movie. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't. Maybe had it come out when it was originally supposed to be there, but I think I would have kind of fell flat on it too. It was an okay movie, but it didn't blow me over because, like I said, I could guess everything coming. WandaVision, on the other hand, so I'm in film for school. I've done some stuff, and I know you have yours. So to me, it was so cool to watch all the little nuances they had of like how they filmed things in what like even the ratio or like just the look of it and like just like beyond just like the story itself and all of that, like how much attention to detail they paid to these like decades of television series and how cool that was to see just that a job well done of like they really did do a love letter to these sitcoms as they went through the era. So
that's kind of exactly how I took it. It functioned as a really cool installment to the cinematic universe, but it also, outside of that, functions as a really cool kind of like dissertation or deconstruction of the history of the sitcom. Mm-hmm. And I found that super freaking interesting. I don't think any other TV show has ever done that before. And so that's the kind of storytelling that keeps me going back to Marvel. The thing I'm most excited for is, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Taika...
Oh, yeah.
How do you say his name?
Taika Waititi?
Yes, his next Thor movie. I cannot wait for that. Because his last Thor movie...
Yeah.
The last one he did was amazing. First two Thor movies didn't really do it for me. And to me, that was oversaturation. And then the third Thor movie, I'm like, oh, I love this. So now it's not oversaturation.
Because James Gunn mentioned it. He's like, if we're going to continue doing this, we can't have it the same good guy beats up bad guy. We know we're going to win in the end. Because it's played out. It's hack at this point. Like, you need to keep developing these characters. You need to reach out and do new things. And he's like, yeah. Like, so James Gunn was like, for this to survive, you need to do something different. It has to. It's not about necessarily the bad guy. It's about looking at the world they're in, the problems that might have arisen because of superheroes or the snap or whatever else it is. So yeah, for I 100% with Ragnarok. I was like, Thor's cool, but he's like, he's your gym rat. He's just there to hit things and be pretty boy, and he's a pretty Hulk, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they did that one in Ragnarok, and it was so well done. It totally took the character in a brand new direction, while still like making it believable that he took those steps to get there.
Right.
It didn't feel disingenuous to what had been there. He's still just a big dumb boy. He's like strongest Avenger. Yes, Jinx.
But then if you look at some of the stuff that preceded that from the director, like What We Do in the Shadows, and I think he also did some episodes of Flight of the Conchords, and you totally see the DNA of that in Thor, and I think that that's just an amazing addition to the universe. So as long as they keep getting filmmakers and creators who have a specific voice that they want to lend to this universe, I think that's great. If they're gonna just pump out generic stuff, then I feel oversaturated by it.
Yeah.
And I feel that's kind of like what the 21st or 20th Century Fox versions of stuff was from the basically even concurrent with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and everything, but it's based from the 2000s to whenever they decided they would loan Spider-Man back to Marvel. It was like they were just kicking stuff out to keep the IP.
Well, and I remember even at that time people were asking the same question. Is Marvel oversaturated in the marketplace? And it was even kind of true back then, and it's still kind of true.
It came to me what I think the true problem is now everyone's trying to replicate. Now everyone needs a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
They started, so DC tried, failed. Because they just tried to catch up too fast. You look at the Stephen King universe of they could have done a Dark Tower series and just I refuse to admit that movie exists. It does not.
I never even saw it.
I didn't either.
I read all the books, but I haven't seen the movie.
I didn't, and it does not, because you know why I didn't see it? Because it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's got Crystal Skull syndrome.
Yeah, it does. What syndrome?
Yeah, exactly. Where
I
did I
don't
pull
know.
that reference from?
I hear they might make a Hobbit movie sometime too. Although he is anyways, I won't go into my crush on him, but
Swanky says he never saw it either.
no one did, because it doesn't exist, man. But I think now, except universes that already had it, like Godzilla vs. King Kong, it already had kind of the shared thing, so like that makes sense. I'm fine with that. And at the end of the day, I'm just going there to watch a big lizard and a monkey beat each other up. Like, I don't need more than that.
Right.
But everybody trying, it's like, you don't need to. You don't. There are good movies that are solo, and I think we may get into this when we talk about some of our favorite series here. Good segue, huh?
Right.
But is that, like, some things just need to die earlier. You know, I enjoy a nice, tight, concise series, or, you know, there's that point, and that's...
I think with some of the shows that we talk about might have that problem, too, that they didn't die soon enough.
Definitely. There's one on my list that ended just right, and I can't wait to get to that one.
Ooh.
Steven Kruger says, I'd love it if they made one Hobbit movie.
Steven Kruger, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, that's actually the only one I watched was the first one.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoyed it. And then I tried to watch the second one on a streaming service, and I just turned it off.
Nope.
Did you watch it in 48 FPS or whatever it was?
No, I didn't go there. I saw it. I saw the trailer online in 48 FPS, and it looked too... what's the word?
Hyperreal, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, there's no motion blur.
Yeah, too much like a soap opera. It looked like a smartphone video, not a film.
And so, like, and I understand, like, people are trying new things, and I will never say don't try something new and try and push the technology forward, but we've spent the last 100 years being conditioned to see 24 frames per second as cinematic.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, as people that have made stuff, it's like we're always looking for that cinematic look, and the first thing you do is go to 24 FPS.
Yep.
Because that's everyone's comfort zone. So, like, as soon as you move to, like, 30, now it looks like the news. If you move to 60, now it looks like sports.
Although there is a guy in Duluth making movies in 60 FPS, Lance Carasty.
Yeah.
And his movies are super unsettling. And I got to say that, like, the 60 FPS in his movies, it does, like, help add to that effect because it's, like, it's too realistic, you know? And but his movies are...
Yeah, when you actually use it for affect, I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah. And so, you know, I do think in certain cases it works.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You had mentioned something about keeping, like, the superhero genre, like, fresh and stuff like that. It's like, that's the problem with genre in general. Like, one or two westerns are made every year these days, and that used to be the only thing that was made in, like, the 30s and 40s, right? So it's like, because you can only do so much inside of a genre before you do exhaust everything. So granted, we don't have the studio factory system where they're pumping out 250 movies a year anymore, but eventually all the territory will really have been explored, and then we'll have to move on to something else. And we'll still get a couple of flicks a year, I think, but it won't be anything on the order of, like, having 10 television series and 4 major releases every year.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, there's always going to be the comic books. I kind of stopped reading comic books for about 10 years, new comic books anyway, and just dove headfirst recently back into Batman. There are so many amazing Batman books coming out this year and also going back several years because I'm trying to play catch up. So, you know, I don't think there's ever going to be, we're never going to exhaust the stories that can be told with these characters. They might fall out of favor with the general public eventually. And honestly, maybe that's kind of a good thing because we're going to get a break and maybe things will go back to basics.
Yeah.
Well, so there's an interesting comparison I think we can make with that sentiment to popular music. I was listening to a music theorist talking about why, like, rock and roll isn't the most popular music, because rock and roll was pop music for a long time, for 30 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, so sometimes, like, when you talk to somebody who's, like, really big into jazz these days, right? Like, jazz has been around as basically as long as, like, pop music has been around, but it hasn't been in the mainstream since, like, the early 40s maybe. But because it's not out there and you don't have to try and, like, a jazz artist knows that they're not going to be a top 40, whatever. They don't need to follow these rules. They can just innovate on the craft.
Yeah.
Sure.
So by taking a step out from being, like, the tent pole type of thing, you can really start playing around. And maybe that's, like, when you come in and out of something like with the Batman comics that you've been catching up on. Once it's, like, not the vanguard that is the thing of the moment, you can really start playing with the form and do things that you couldn't and take risks that you couldn't.
Yeah. Well,
True.
even when we did the Invincible episode, when we were talking about that, I mean, the first thing I said was like, well, the reason why I didn't watch it to start was because I was like, oh, cool, an edgy superhero movie with what if the bad,
Right.
what if someone's Superman but bad? Darkburn, right?
Brightburn.
Yep. The Boys, Invincible. There's one more I can never remember. A guy has stupid hair in it. Didn't do well. He has like a big bad white wig. I don't know. Came out the same time as Invincible, and everyone's just like, get out of here.
It must not have made an impression on me.
Right, because again, it's like, it was cool when he did it the one time. It's a kid who tells the same joke in class, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, it was funny the first time, and now it's got to stop.
The whoopee cushion. It was funny literally the first time you ever experienced it, and now it is deleted forever.
Well, you know, The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time, but whenever somebody says it's going to be a dark, gritty reboot, I think like, oh, God, come on. Do something else.
Yep.
So, luckily we've got James Gunn.
Yeah.
He's doing the right stuff right now. So.
And in that direction, Ninja Turtles is going to get Seth Rogen to do, and I can't remember.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Like, if you're going to get, like, stoner, teenager, 80s vibe, like, I cannot think, like, everyone's like, I just don't think it's going to be good. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Is he's like writing, directing
He
that's
showed his, like,
great.
sketchbook of all the info he has and stuff.
Is he bringing back the suits? I heard a rumor about that.
That would
a
be
while
amazing.
ago.
Don't know.
They were
I would
amazing in
love
the early 90s.
Yeah.
They were, and could you imagine those suits with just like a touch of CG, just to like clean up some of the like folds in the fabric and stuff? Like they could look unbelievable.
And so I will say the second of the newest Ninja Turtle movies was the world's okayest film.
Right.
It was just the okayest. Had they started with that one, because they somehow came out of the uncanny valley with the faces a little bit, and it was more of that, like, Bebop and Rocksteady looked so good. They were sweet. But you're right, like, if you did, again, because I come from the school of, like Jim Olja, I'm sure you know, where it's like these practical effects aren't in there as much anymore.
Yeah.
You can touch them up, but like Jurassic Park still stands today because they took the time to do really great practical effects and then they dusted it over with some CGI.
Yeah.
So it feels there. So if they came back with the suits, would be amazing. The look of I think it's like the DC fighting game and the Ninja Turtles were in it as like downloadable characters.
Oh, I don't know about that.
It's worth looking up. I never played it. It's enough for me to maybe want to buy the game just to play as the Turtles.
Cool.
But like they are that perfect mix of like between the CGI and or like the TV series Ninja Turtles and then the suit Turtles.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
If they went with that with just, you know, a little bit more money to throw at it,
Nice.
I think they'd have their perfect Turtles.
Matt says, I'd rather see Rogan TMNT than another Bay bomb.
Yeah, you know, I saw the first one in theaters, and like I feel like my eyes didn't even know where to go.
No.
Like I'm like I feel like the turtles look okay in theory. I just can't like focus on them because everything's moving so fast, and on the big screen they were like humongous and just like like you were saying, they don't look like they're there. You know, I mean, I know that they shot with like actual humans and everything, but like once it's just cartooned over, I'm just like, what am I even
Well,
looking
they had
at? And
all
there
the
was so much
stuff,
detail.
and because it was too much. It's Transformers, like the first couple Transformers movies. Like I wanted to see like the toys where it slots out and it comes up, and like they had like some close-ups of gears, but 90% of it was just random bits of metal moving like this so fast.
You can't even process
You
it.
can't. No,
Yeah.
and like I wanted that, like the Power Rangers movie.
I didn't see it.
You know what? There was some cool parts to it. Is it great? No. But when the Zords come out, they have the original riff.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And like I got goosebumps just absolutely even thinking about it. And they're coming out of the mountain, and then they show them like and like how it should have been for the Transformers. It was so nostalgic because like that's what you played with those toys for. Were to put them in and like.
Right.
I always
missed the
like
mark.
mine is the semi-truck. Just kidding.
Yeah. So
All right,
Anyway.
interesting. So I think that probably exhausts our energy on that topic. I've got a couple
Yeah.
things I need to bother Keith about now.
Let's do it.
So the first thing is, for those who don't know, Keith, local filmmaker, legend, guy who cuts his own hair. No,
Yeah, I do that. That's true. That's the only true part.
So you did an anthology film, Gravedigger Halfway House. Let's
Yeah.
say it right.
I did. Yep.
and you've got a sequel coming out in like making its world debut in about a week now.
Yeah, a week from tomorrow. So Sunday the 8th, 1 p.m. at Cinema. There's my little commercial portion of this.
So if you're in the Duluth Superior area,
Yep.
come on and check it out.
Right on.
So Matt and Adam want to know if there is a Gravedigger Dave's Halfway House 3 in the works.
So in a way, yes. And actually, Matt knows the answer to this question. So he's I think he's being kind of coy. So there's this gentleman in the Duluth area named Brandon Cole. He's also a filmmaker. He's going to be doing a feature-length ghost hunting documentary up in Grand Marais at the Maple Hill Cemetery, which is this kind of like renowned place up there. And he asked if Gravedigger Dave could introduce the movie in very much of like a Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight kind of way. So I think Gravedigger Dave is going to have a little bit in the intro where he kind of says like, here's the movie, here's what we're doing, in a very kind of cheeky, punny kind of way. And then he'll close out the movie. So, you know, all in all, like I will have very little to do with the middle chunk of that. That's all going to be Brandon Cole. But Brandon, Matt Rasmussen, and I will all collaborate on the introduction and the outro.
Cool.
So that'll be the third Gravedigger Dave. You know, from my perspective, it's going to be like I'm shooting like a 6-minute short probably. But
and that's just the amount of work you want to do.
I am feeling a little burnt out, you know, after 2 years of really like hammering this stuff out. Two features and 2 books.
2 books, yeah.
Yeah, it's time to take a little break. I can film 6 minutes next
Mr.
year. I can
Prolific
handle
over
that.
here.
Well, yeah, I'm just putting out a lot of crap. Not actually good at anything.
Well, good enough for people to want more.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. So yeah, I kind of figured it was sort of like a setup for you to be able to go in and talk a little bit of detail about the project.
That's probably what Matt's angle was, and I'm sure Adam Norrie knew the plan as well.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Matt is Gravedigger Dave himself.
He
so
is, yes.
If he was unaware, that would be some good secret keeping.
I actually think Matt knew about this whole crazy idea way before I did, because Brandon and him and Matt were working on this movie. The Hand That Feeds together, and I think that's where Brandon got the idea. So they were kind of talking about it, and then they brought me in when that movie wrapped. So
nice.
Matt's known about this for a little while, and yeah, we're gonna make it happen.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool.
I'm excited. So how are you feeling about the upcoming? Because the sequel is a little bit different. Number 2 is a little bit different than number 1.
And so it's, you know, technically it's a film festival. So I took submissions of short films from all around the world. Chose, I believe, 6 to be the official selections. A whole bunch of other ones are the runners-up, and those short films have clips interspersed throughout the program. And then Matt Rasmussen and myself and this other guy, Sean Zarn, we shot a wraparound that ties all these short films together. So it is a film festival, but it also is cohesive in a way that most film festivals are not, in that it is a complete like feature film viewing experience. So we're gonna do the actual festival on Sunday. Then the whole thing is gonna be released on DVD and then streaming for free, probably on YouTube or Vimeo shortly thereafter. So
that's awesome. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So yeah,
hopefully people like it. I mean, you know, the stuff that I can't say that my stuff's any good, but the stuff that came from, you know, China and Germany and England to get submitted to this festival and the United States is all super good, super creepy, just paranormal horror stuff and some mind benders as well. So It's gonna be really fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but so Adam has been giving Matt a little bit of guff because Matt, he may still have the most total like video appearances. Like he's been in the most videos for us, but you've definitely guested on this show the most.
Because he's done more builds and
he did a bunch of
stuff like that.
A couple of games, a couple of 3-minute Lego build challenges, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but so Adam's been trying to like get Matt's goat a little bit, but been like, oh, he's been on so many more times.
I mean,
And so
you know what?
it's a quality over quantity thing. Like you
if
do so much
Adam's-
stuff, you always have something new to talk about.
You know what? I don't see any reason for me and Matt to be in competition. If Adam's gonna talk crap, then he's got to get his butt down here and start being in some shows.
yeah. Matt should just say, like, look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, like, and we're working on, like, by working, I mean I've thought about asking Adam to be on, and I'm really bad at, like, because I'm the producer of the show. It's like sort of my job to get people to come on here.
Well, you know, Adam's got tons of stuff to talk about between
and, like,
Ghostbusters and ghost hunting. You know,
Ugh.
he's done it all, and he's written a book about paranormal investigations. So
Yeah.
he's done it all.
So yeah, we definitely need to get him on. But I might have told Matt, it's like, I'll make sure that I keep his appearances to Matt -1.
I'm curious, and I know this is probably way off topic, but what makes the Duluth Cloquet area, why are we all so spooky? Like,
I don't know.
Everyone, and I mean, I know it's like, okay, you kind of are in the pool because, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, like, if you're a filmmaker, it seems like you're doing something horror-related. If I'm a board game maker, I'm making horror stuff.
Oh, that's you made
yeah,
that. Oh, that's amazing.
All Hallows
Available
Eve.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, available now. I'm doing
Nice.
2 conventions, DeluCon and then Twin Ports Terror. They're also having me
Yeah.
sell there. And I don't know if you know this yet, but we're gonna be doing 3-minute vignettes together of the 3 monsters in this movie.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we'll talk shop after.
Nice.
That's why we actually brought you in today.
I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Sucker Keith in to steal his skills.
Yeah. Well, Matt Rasmussen and, you know, the Gravedigger Dave and all the things he's done, Sean Zarn, with, you know, all of them being like the mayors of, like, what is it about this area? Just because it's
Brandon
like,
Cole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon Cole. I mentioned Lance earlier. I mean, his stuff isn't horror, but it is unsettling
Psychological
as
sort of,
Yeah.
hell. Yeah.
little Jim Ogil, even my uncle Jeremy, they used to have the oh god, My Three Scum back on their local access channel. Like, it's just, there's something.
Well, I think Duluth in particular, I noticed when I got here in 2014, there's just something kind of like gritty about it.
Yeah.
That lends itself. You know, I mean, people talk about how gorgeous it is, and it is gorgeous if you're facing the lake. But if you're like facing some of the, like, the underpasses, you know, underneath I-35, you're like, yeah, this place is pretty spooky. It lends itself to some horror films, perhaps some like crime thrillers, which I've always wanted to
That
do.
would be cool.
I would love to shoot a car chase down the I-35 tunnels so bad.
You mentioning that reminded me, or inspired me. I've wanted to make a
Yes.
buddy cop movie forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take one small, like, slight detour here. So when I was first, like, becoming a filmmaker, let's say, I was like, I'm never gonna do a horror film because in my nascent mindset was people just do horror because it's cheap and easy, right? And
That's absolutely true.
But I mean,
well, so I'll say, like, horror might be inexpensive. It's not easy to do well, though.
No, because
I mean,
the build up and the tension and, like, knowing when to hit those beats, or because it even comes down to the music or the way the angle is shot or the coloration of things can add so much or take away so much.
Yep.
It's not easy. It's cheap, sure, like, because I mean, look at Halloween, the shoestring they did there, or
Yep.
Leslie Vernon, Behind the Mask, one of my all-time favorite movies.
I love that movie.
Oh,
so
man,
good.
so good. But, like, it needs to be done the right way to build, and no, not everything can be a cat jump scare. You know,
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's true. I mean, like anything, I think it's hard to do well, but it's easy to do poorly for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as far as, like, I mean, maybe it seems intimidating to me because I've never done it, but, like, the idea of making a comedy movie to me seems so much more difficult than making a horror movie.
Well, I touching on that because, like I said, like a buddy cop movie, obviously it's just like it's action, which is like one of the most expensive things you could possibly shoot.
Yeah.
And then comedy, which is like it might be funny to you and the guys in the writers' room, but it might not translate or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so that's
Yeah.
sort of the big risk. Duluth. Matt says Duluth needs to become the new Halloween capital.
I agree. I
I
want
mean,
to take
I've-
over for Bentleyville.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
I
that would
wanted
be
to
awesome.
come back when I came back from the cities. I'm like, I'm gonna make this a spookiest town, and then I found everybody else who has the same goal in mind, and I'm like, yeah, let's take that. There's the Noka, right? Is currently, yeah. So, and I hear it's a bust.
So,
is
So
it?
I think maybe Duluth just becomes the holiday capital of the world, and we work with Bentley.
Oh
he
my
gets
God.
winter, we
make
get
Spooklyville.
fall.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like the town in Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
Town
We
call.
just transition into it.
I think we take a page out of Oscar Welch's book and we just take it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's like fight us for it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. We'll just say your holiday authority.
Or like
It's got holiday ability.
Yeah.
Tolkien
that's right.
when he's like, it's dwarves, and the guy's like, well, I mean, technically the dictionary. He's like, I wrote the dictionary, so sit down, son.
Hilarious.
But yeah, we just take it.
Matt says Anoka is a bust.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Anoka, come at us.
We're coming at you.
Matt would know if it's a bust, and Matt says so. Then I believe it.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
That's authority there.
Yeah. But yeah, so like that's you had because you had mentioned since I've known you have talked about you would love to shoot a car chase on I-35.
I mean, so sometimes if I'm bored, I just go on YouTube and watch like the same 5 or 6 car chases from great movies, just like over and over and over again. Like Nightcrawler, the movie with
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. I watched the movie once. I've watched the car chase easily like 75 times.
Sometimes a movie just has one good scene, and that's you just got to find it, and that's fine.
I've studied the heck out of car chases, and I really just want to do one.
Well, I'll hire you to be the first unit director for the car chase.
I want to hire you to be first unit director for my car chase.
I don't want either of you, so
So now we can just work for free on each other's movies. Now.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll just trade.
Yeah,
Perfect.
perfect. Done.
So anyway, that is the deviations from the main topic today.
Yes.
Yep.
The thing at least the 3 of us have been waiting for.
That's right.
I asked Darrell and Keith to prepare their top 10 television shows of all time. And so the personal lists, ranked or unranked, out of the top 10, I'm presenting mine from 10 to 1. If you guys decide that's the way you want to present it, that's totally cool.
I will try my best to do 10 for 1. As anything in my life, it is chaos. So I will filter the best I can from the last thing I wrote to the first thing I wrote is my 10 to 1.
I also have lists in no particular order from Jeremy and Kara, so they're participating a little bit. I'm sure the 3 of us will be talking about this next week a little bit too. Mm-hmm. And then I have my whole giant master crazy spreadsheet of a whole bunch, and we're going to talk about our runners-up or honorable mentions and stuff too, because 10 of something that has this many good entries is almost impossible to pick.
Right.
So I'm wondering, before we start, do we think that the 3 of us share any of our top 10?
Definitely.
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say so. And at the very least, for sure, our runners-up or honorable mentions will have
Yeah.
crossover.
Absolutely.
Interesting. All right. So because I want to go a little bit extra, I have my little spreadsheet
Look at you.
selected. So I think I'm just going to start with my number 10 entry here. How do I fix this? Jeopardy. Jeopardy
Really?
is my 10th best show of all time.
Okay. Rule question. What do we do
Yeah.
if that show happens to be on our list in a different place?
It can be there. That's totally fine. If you want to swap it out, you can say this spot was Jeopardy, but now I'm gonna put this in.
I have no.
He has no swaps. I'm flexible. So I say I've seen it with the Ghoul guys. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You just wait for yours, and then you say, this is why I think mine was ranked higher at that point. When you get to your number 3 or number whatever it is.
Let's do it.
So Jeopardy, obviously, when I was coming up with this list, I was like, game shows obviously have to be on there, right? And then like my mind immediately goes to like the big 3: Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Price is Right. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, I was like, Price is Right? But there's like Wheel of Fortune and The Price is Right both have sort of like a whimsical, like whatever. Like Jeopardy sucks you in so immediately, and you can be smarter than everybody on there some days, and you could know none of the answers some days.
Yeah. My friend actually was a contestant. Pretty much the last weekend that you could have been a contestant on Jeopardy with an audience and Alex Trebek. It was like February 20-something of 2020.
Wow.
So she made it by the skin of her teeth.
That's awesome.
And from talking to her, I totally understand like the struggle of getting onto Jeopardy. It is crazy difficult, even if you're brilliant. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not easy, and I think that's what makes Jeopardy so interesting.
Was it Josh Pritchett? Was someone from? I think we had someone from Cloquet on there. I think it was Josh Pritchett.
That name sounds familiar.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was probably around your age.
He was, yep, I think he was a grade above me, so probably like
right in between us.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is kind of something magical about Jeopardy that other game shows just don't have.
Yeah.
And I think it's like how much work the contestants go through. It's like the Olympics. You know, it's like you just like know these people.
Yeah, everybody who makes it on there is
they've earned their way
brilliant.
there. Yeah.
right.
absolutely.
It's just like, do they give you categories that you can handle? Are you good at the strategy of the game? Are you going to crumble under the pressure of the big bright lights?
Yeah, you could be this like brilliant scientist, and then they give you like U.S. history and the Bible, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you know. And that's one of the many things that makes the show so interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of my top 10. Easily makes the list, but at number 10, and we'll see why.
It is so strange. They didn't even cross my mind. I never even would have thought about putting one of those kind of shows on there. Loved them, but they, it's kind of really memey to say. Like, it's like, it was what I watched when I was homesick.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
they'd be on my grandparents' house in the background. Like, I have nostalgia for it because it's like, oh, it's that, and I'm playing with my toys. And, oh, cool. You know, I was 30 at the time, and yeah, but yeah. So I didn't think about that, but it is a wonderful. And out of them, I do agree with you that of it is the top.
Yes.
Yeah, in the genre, I think it's easily the best game show ever.
Well, so I got to Jeopardy because I decided to break my top 10 down by genre. What? Somebody just commented. I could see the little bubble pop up.
So, Swanky said, this is literally the exact same for me, too. The wheel at Grandma's was a yell fest. My grandma was the best Wheel of Fortune player in the universe. And I never would see her get hyped up unless Wheel of Fortune was on.
You know, can I complain about Wheel of Fortune for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a category in it called Same Letter, and it drives me bananas because Wheel of Fortune is in a position to, like, they can educate people, you know? And instead of saying, like, alliteration as the category name, they say same letter. And that drives me freaking nuts. I'm like, you guys can make the world a better place by teaching vocabulary, and you're not doing it.
Yep.
And that's why Jeopardy's better.
Plague Planet.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never even thought of that.
Very frustrating.
Yep. All right, so Keith, let's...
Okay, so I broke mine down by genre. So I chose 10 genres. Some of them I kind of made up, and I chose my favorite show in that genre because I didn't just want to come here with like 10 crime dramas or 10 like superhero animated TV shows.
I think all of us had that same sort of... we didn't
Yeah.
want to do... I was worried I was going to come with 10 sitcoms.
10 animes. Yep, I couldn't like, and I'm not. I'd watch other shows, but I'm like, what I like and what hits me is anime. So like that, I'm like, I can't be that weedish. I gotta put my waifu pillow off to the side. And,
Take your Naruto headband off.
Well, here we go. So, one of the genres I picked was docuseries, and for number 10, my number 10 favorite show, I had to pick a docuseries I loved, and it was Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, yes.
that
freaking-
soundtrack alone.
That's so good. Robert Stack.
Yeah, he's the best one. I never watched the newer version. I think it was on Hulu maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I never checked it out. But man, the originals were super influential on me when I started doing local spooky documentary segments. I watched it as a kid, and then I revisited it to like basically to study up, and that show is so good.
It hits you with the music right away, and then it does a good shotgun scatter of topics.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get your kind of paranormal, you get your cryptids, you're gonna get your true crime, and also his little schmarmy things. Like he's still kind of above it all. He'll come back and he'll cut to him and be like, oh, he says some like grumbly line every time.
Yeah, it's perfectly assembled.
It is, and you know, I kind of have a medium threshold for true crime. Like I can't watch stuff like Dateline, where it's just like 100% true crime all the time. You know, I can handle it if it's mixed in. As a kid, though, I soaked up the UFO stuff. Anything UFO on Unsolved Mysteries, I was like, yes, give me more.
Well, and the thing too of it is like it always put that grain of truth so much more into everything else because like true crime, you're like I heard about that on the news.
Yeah,
and this same show is now telling me, and mind you, being a bit younger than you, I was coming in probably at the tail end of its peak, right? Still good, but. You know, but it was still like, okay, so I saw that on the news, and that's in here, and they're talking about aliens, and it just kept everything more real
That
to
is
me.
a super good point. I never thought of it in that context. Yeah, that's super cool. All right, so let's keep this moving.
All right, my number 10, because again, chaos is rule in my house. The last thing I put down there was Nova.
Yes.
I've never seen Nova.
It was a delight. I want to, I'm like, Mom, I'm going to be crazy tonight. I'm staying up till 8 o'clock because there's dinosaurs on TV. Or there's Egypt. Or there's something like Nova fascinated me to no end. And I'm gonna slough in one of my honorable mentions here. So like I was a PBS kid growing up. You and I had talked about this, Chris, before coming in. And like I loved it. I miss now it's PBS Kids. My kids watch it.
Yes, and I watch PBS Kids all the time.
And there's some really quality stuff on there. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much, but like Arthur is a comfort show for me.
Did you hear? They stopped.
They finally
after like 20 something seasons. Yeah, Arthur is coming to an end.
I can't believe it.
Mind blowing. Yeah, it is really.
I'm gonna get the Ultra Blu-ray double collection, whatever it is. Any money I can put towards that show, I'm doing it. Well, but I miss like I would have Bob Ross, I'd have Arthur, I'd have some nature show, and they do their terrible little things. But like there was something so official about Nova at the end of the night, going like, all the cartoons are off and I've done this, and it was the learning as the experience, because like especially in the early 90s when I was growing up, like it was like Egypt and like dinosaurs were huge. Like they're just I don't know if new discoveries or they're just like this is what's going to be cool for you, but just the endless fascination of just like getting to go to school and be like, did you know that mummies do this?
Well, and it wasn't something like so Cosmos, like a more recent show. That's focused like there's a little bit of natural history in there, but it's like more like, space and whatever. You could get anything from Nova.
Right.
Well, and kind of on that kind of plane, a show that almost made my list was Frontline.
Oh,
I
sure.
I think that's a BBC show, but I watched it on PBS, and I just couldn't find a place for it on my list. But in terms of like news documentary, I don't think you can do better than that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's an excellent pick.
Thank you.
All right, so going back for me, my number 9.
Are the people at home seeing this spreadsheet right now?
They're just seeing the cutout.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when I did this, when I Vanna Whited it, I wasn't being an idiot.
My number 9 show of all time is Sherlock. Speaking of the BBC.
Nice.
So I know it's easy to be a fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. Sherlock Holmes was one of my all-time favorite literary characters. I own like the giant leather-bound every Sherlock Holmes story thing. And I've read it front to back. I love Sherlock Holmes, and this is probably the best modern representation of Sherlock Holmes.
It was in my honorable mentions because remember I said like I got British TV shows. There were 10. Cannot remember a single name of any of them because I'm terrible with names. Sherlock is one of those ones that stood out because it was super well done in a time again that was heavily saturated with Sherlock films.
Yep,
everybody wanted to
Robert
do
Downey
it.
Jr.'s movies.
Yep.
And those were not really true to Sherlock, in my opinion.
No, that was
I
like,
didn't love those.
what if America made a Sherlock movie?
I like the movies, but I do also agree that they weren't Sherlock-y. They're popcorn stuff. They were fun. But yes, the Sherlock TV series, Martin. So I mentioned my crush on the Hobbit guy earlier, that he does such a good job. He's in a lot of like the Simon Pegg's movies and stuff. He's just such a good actor, and he has his little corgi body. I don't know. He just reminds me of a corgi. But,
I buy it.
But yeah, but like they did a wonderful job, and they showed true to character, like more like the drug addiction part of it, and like some of the issues that like internally went. I know this is yours. I'm sorry, I'm stealing this from you, but it was on my list of my alternative list because it's wonderful.
Have you? I don't know. Have you seen it?
I'm not familiar with this show.
Right, no, that's totally fine.
I cannot comment.
Maybe it's something that you'll decide that you want to watch in the future. So
Right.
because it's a BBC show, it's like 4 episodes a series.
Right.
There's only like 3 or 4 series of it. So.
And I like Benedict Cumberbatch, and I've heard tons of good things on this series, so I really should check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna be meaner than Chris and be like, "You're a fool for not watching."
The guy who plays Moriarty is legit terrifying.
Who is it?
I forget the name of the actor, but
it's the best representation of going like the beans. This guy's a bad guy.
Yeah.
One thing I wish they would dive into, and this is just me trying to like their crossover, being a Sherlock fan, Lupin, Arsene Lupin, the gentleman thief, and the one where like him and Sherlock, I think it was like he stole Sherlock's pocket watch and he had to like, then Sherlock had to like outsmart and figure out who had done it because he's like the master thief versus the mastermind of whatever. And I love the gentleman thief storyline. So like I am parallel in that regard to Sherlock. But yeah, wonderful pick. Wonderful pick.
Yep,
I want one we
very
fight
happy
about
with
though.
it. All right, Keith, let's see what your next one
Number
is.
9, my category was modern kids TV shows. I have a 3-year-old, so I watch a lot of kids TV, and I think there's a popular thing to say like, oh, they don't make them like they used to in our day. Kids TV is so much better now than it used to be, and I think the cream of the crop is this newer show that you can watch on Disney Plus called Bluey. You're familiar with Bluey?
Yep.
Bluey is hilarious. They are short, 10-minute long episodes from Australia.
Dad.
Yeah, about this little dog family, and they just have like normal days at home. You know, it's just parents and kids just playing and being silly, and they have these like little fun adventures at home. Nothing crazy happens. They're not going to outer space or anything. It's just a very, very believable show about like an awesome little family, and the dad is hilarious.
The dad is wonderful. And to this, so there's a Reddit post on this. I'm not going to tell you what my name is, but it's in there. But it's someone was like kind of knocking. They're like, I just don't know, and blah, blah. I'm like, it is the one show that has shown me an exasperated parent with truly annoying kid, not like Caillou level annoying, but like kids can be pesty.
I will say, I just need to make an interjection about Caillou. That the show, he's 3 or 4 years old. He's going to be annoying. Like, people are always like, oh, he's so annoying and he always wants his way. That's every child at that age.
But it's how the parents respond to it and allow it to happen and fluff it up.
Okay,
that's the problem.
fair.
And to a degree, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood does a bit of the same thing where, like, there's a bit, the mom gets mad, but then they sing it out. The difference with Bluey...
It's realistic.
It's realistic. The dad's like, oh, like you see him being like, he rolls his eyes at the kids and they're like, Dad, play with me, Dad. And they're like, he's like, oh, fine. Like, I just sat down, and like, he doesn't want to for a minute because he finally sat. And then he's like, fine, like, I love you and I'm going to. And I think that's the wonder of that show.
Me too. And you know, I think the dad also has this way of kind of like annoying the kids. It's like, because he knows how to get back at them and kind of like pick on them and tease them. So, I mean, this is perhaps not the right venue for this, but it is the most heartwarming, like, true to life kid show ever. So check it out.
They do a wonderful job of showing like an actual family with actual day, like a
Just
day in the life
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will say, and because I want to argue on it, just is one of my side ones. My favorite kids show, which I do feel is superior, is Corey Carson.
I've never seen that one. Where do I find that?
Netflix.
Okay.
Yep. It is hilarious. The beats, the timing, like it's in this car world, you know, and everyone's like a train or a car. There's every time I laugh, there's a train that he tries to have a conversation with the families they're driving down the road, and there's a tunnel that comes up. It's like, oh, hey Corey, how's it going? I hope you have a wonderful day. Oh no, the tunnel's coming. And then he has to like finish his sentence before he has to go through this tunnel. And it's like, it's almost like British humor, but it's not. There's a different pacing and level of it, and it hits my funny bone perfectly.
Nice.
I would, like, no kids, I would watch this show.
I've got some similar to that. So my runners up, don't make fun of me. It's actually My Little Pony.
Okay.
Friendship is Magic, and Lauren Faust, that showrunner, her more recent show, DC Superhero Girls.
Oh, I haven't.
So you guys probably heard of the whole Brownie thing.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea even what it was. This is like 10 years ago. And then my daughter wants to watch My Little Pony. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll put this on. What the heck? It is so funny. And it has like the best soundtrack. There's like this like metal music playing, and the ponies are like beating the heck out of each other. And it's not as like wholesome as Bluey. Like, there's violence.
Yeah.
And there's crazy stuff happening, and there's metal music and screaming. But I'm like, wow.
It's a little more wild. But yeah, it is.
I totally understand why 10 years ago, 20-year-old guys like thought this show was hilarious. Because it is hilarious. And in kind of like the same way that like Powerpuff Girls was hilarious.
Yes.
Okay.
These shows are kind of
Dr.
all
Him.
from some of the same people and all kind of fit the same sense of humor.
Okay.
And same thing with DC Superhero Girls. That's got like Wonder Woman and Batgirl and Supergirl, and they all have these crazy adventures. But it is hilarious. So
Awesome.
Good kids TV lately.
Is it back to me or is it on you?
I think it's to
What was your 9?
my 9 I haven't done yet.
Okay, perfect.
So my number 9 is, and I'd be shocked if a lot of folks saw this one, is Mushishi. We're heading into some of my anime territory.
Okay.
So Mushishi is one of the calmest yet creepy things I've ever seen. So I had my twins. We were going through a rough patch, and this another show that's going to come up on the list later is involved. There's the two things that I watched and kind of like brought me back down. But Mushishi follows this guy who goes around and he like rids town of these like spiritual problems that are going on. But it's not like high, like, I level up and I have sword and I'm slicing through. He comes through and he's like, well, like, you've ticked off this water god because you guys have put a roadway through this. And these Mushishis like the life force of the earth. Kind of like, think like midichlorians, but cooler. But actually good.
Yeah.
And so he's like going from town to town and he's like, oh, like kind of like diagnosing. It's like a naturalist. In a way, like he goes around, he's like, oh, okay, well, this problem is because of this. And some of the episodes are heavy, they're dark, they're sad, like people die, but it's not like the high-end anime action, blah, 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 but it's just a very calm. The music is calm. It's very beautifully done. There's a lot of quiet space, which you don't have in TV often. Yeah. It lets you sit with quiet for a long time, and I absolutely love it for that, and I think it takes the cake in a lot of cases. It's just it is a wonderful show, and like the guy, he's like, his thing is like, well, this stuff is attracted to me for reasons I won't get into, but he can never stay in any town too long because the longer he's there, the more these Mushishi show up, which are inherently not problematic, but the more of them come in and then it starts causing problems. It's like an overload in the system. Okay. So he has to like keep moving from place to place.
Interesting.
It is wonderful, and it's a short series. I think it's like 10 or 12 episodes. And it's calming. It's nice. Great. Yep.
Steven Kruger says, thank you. Nobody's heard of Mushishi, so good.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. He also said, talk about parenting goals when you guys are talking about Bluey.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Back to me, I suppose. All right. Number 8 on my list. MASH.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up watching it.
Yeah.
No TV show will ever be viewed by more people concurrently than the series finale of MASH. Non-sporting event.
Right, because we don't have a common culture the way we used to now.
Yeah, like it was a cultural touchstone for a decade. Mm-hmm. And the creative choices that they made, like the depictions of war and like trauma and tragedy juxtaposed with like comedy and wit.
Yeah.
And just everything together, the way the characters interacted, the way that everything came together on the show. I don't think there's a bad episode of MASH.
And MASH is amazing. And I think comedy is more poignant when it's, like you said, when it has like dark scenes that kind of juxtapose it. Mm-hmm. The MASH movie, my dad was a huge fan of the MASH movie. Have you ever seen it?
I have.
It preceded the TV series, I believe. But that also it's like amazing because it can be really dark, but also like wickedly funny.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the brilliance of that show.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like if it's on, I don't need to change the channel.
Yeah.
Thing, it's like just like land on MASH, you're good.
I think that the first season of The Office hit similar tonal weirdness in a really like kind of poignant way, the same way MASH did, where it's like the first season of The Office is funny, but it's also like pretty depressing, like seeing this guy who, he essentially has no life and his life is super sad, and I think they address that in a much more realistic way in season 1 than they do afterwards. Mm-hmm. Season 1, for a lot of people, The Office is kind of a misfire, but for me, I love it for the same reason that MASH is great, because it's funny, but it's also kind of dark.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's all. I mean, if people aren't aware of MASH at this point, I don't know how you wouldn't be, but go and check it out. It's on every TV station at all hours of the day. And it's 40 years old. So, I mean, I think that speaks to the...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Keith, what have you got next?
Okay, for my number 8, the category I chose was anime, and my favorite anime. It's kind of basic, but it's Death Note.
Oh,
I freaking
yes.
love Death Note. It's so I mean, I love cat and mouse
Yep.
games. I love seeing detectives at work. I love unsolvable puzzles being solved. So if you're unfamiliar with it, it's about this mass murderer who has a supernatural tool and a detective who has to track him down, worldwide. And it's just really compelling.
It is, and
absolutely.
the constant they do a very good job of first making you feel like ucky about liking, like you're like, I understand why he's doing it. It's not great, and then you're like, with him and Elle, you're like, okay, who's gonna? Oh, they almost got you're rooting for
Yeah.
both, and then at the end, they bring you right back around to be like, this is how serious this is, and this is how messed up this is.
Yeah.
And it is. You're right. I read the manga first.
Same here. Yeah.
Yep. And I was very pleased with the anime adaptation of it.
Me too. And it was kind of like, I took a long break in between finishing the manga and starting the anime, and it's like, gosh, now I get to experience this again with color and music, It's like, so it's, it was very much like just like an enhancement of the experience, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a great pick.
That is a wonderful pick.
Well, cool.
Yep.
I thought for anime, you're an anime lover. I thought it
Yeah.
was kind of a basic pick, but
No,
I
I
love
think
it.
that's up there. Like an honorable mention for me would be like Full Metal Alchemist. Like I think it's been talked to death, but like how wonderful, that series was. That's not one that I like of all the animes. I don't know if I would have like thought of that one, but it is such a good one for being up there because
Yeah.
of that reason. It is very, very well done, very interesting. Yeah, great choice. Absolutely.
I like the numbers are like, your pick's absolute trash.
No, so far, like I said, I want one we're gonna fight about.
Yep.
I tried to start a fight on the children's show one, but we just agreed because they're both great shows.
all
what
the
are you gonna
shows
do?
are great.
All these shows are great. We're in the 2 Minnesotan about this.
yeah.
I'm gonna
Well-
be contrary to the next one just because.
Someone's gonna pick Survivor, and the room's gonna blow up.
Yeah, well, not me.
And my aunt Rose. So this is gonna be a side topic. My great aunt Rosie, this little Finnish lady, and she would talk like this, and she was so old, and she would shake. Her favorite show was Fear Factor.
Oh,
And so I'd go over, and she's this little mustachioed, like, smaller than me. I'm 5'2", for those who don't see me in person. I know I look so much bigger on TV. But, like, she came up to my shoulder, and she's like, do you know what? And she'd poke me with her bony little finger. She's like, I watched a man eat a bug the other day, and it was so funny, and he had to choke on it. And she, like, loved it.
yeah.
Like, you could put guys on top of this car, and this 80-plus-year-old woman is just like, he could die! Like, oh, man, she was full of,
That's
spit and vinegar also.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Fear Factor, and my dad loved to watch Fear
I don't think I've ever
It's-
seen Fear Factor.
No.
It's the train wreck you can't not watch.
Yeah, I couldn't watch it without Rosie.
I kind of rejected that whole era of reality TV.
And that's fine. I think
just
it was-
didn't watch it.
There was we watched a bit of Survivor as a family, and the only reason I watched it was because it was family. And then my family really got into The Amazing Race. And then my wife really liked Big Brother, and one of my friends, Cody Jorgensen, really liked it. And there was a few seasons of Big Brother that I did enjoy. I'm like, I knew going into it was going to be trash. You know, like you pull up to McDonald's, you know what you're eating. You know, like, and if I could sit back and do that again with the King Kong Godzilla conversation, like I'm not going in there expecting an amazing thing. I'm going in there to watch monsters beat the tar of each other. So
Right.
like, in that scope, it was okay. Haven't followed them since. Not my big genre. Like I don't like reality
yeah.
TV
Joe
a lot.
Rogan has gone on to bigger and better things for sure. So.
Oh,
He was the
see,
host of Fear Factor.
I didn't even know that. I know him obviously now from podcasts and stuff, but
Yeah.
I had no idea. Yeah, I mean, that was an entire era and genre of television that I experienced through promos, and that was pretty much it. Or if I was at someone's house and it just like happened to be on in the background or something.
They're not the same show at all, but I feel like Cash Cab was kind of that same type of thing for me.
Cash Cab, I actually did get into Cash Cab. That was pretty cool. It was kind of like kind of like Cheap Jeopardy.
Yeah, fair enough. So I guess the thing that I liked about that show was that if you got it wrong, you got kicked out of the cab.
Right. Imagine Alex is just like, oh, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Just pulls a lever and you just fall from
Yeah.
behind the podium.
Dr. Evil style.
I just couldn't think of Cash Cab without thinking of we'll call them hotel documentaries. Like it's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm like, oh, gross. How's that on TV? I'm like, oh, it's a different concept. Okay,
Different kind of
yes,
Cash Cab.
yeah. It's like no, this isn't. Anyways, moving on to
What number are we on?
I think we're on
still on
Darrell's
your
number 8. Yeah, we did a
Yeah.
2 side stories and 3 other shows.
Oops. This is where my list is gonna start switching a little bit. I'm putting my second one when I had kids is what saved me and my wife's sanity with Twins in the Cities Alone. At 1 a.m, we were doing a bottle feeding, and we had run dry. Mm-hmm. And then this wonderful show hit play because there's nothing else we could do. The Invincible Kimmy Schmidt.
Yes.
It was everything we needed.
Yeah.
It was this kind of off-brand humor. It was that spunk in life, and like, isn't everything great? And then like everything else is like Titus Andromeda in that, and like it's like, no, everything's terrible, and like, you know, it was exactly what needed. I don't know if maybe it's the world's best produced show. I don't know if a ton of people love it, but to me, it was exactly what we needed in that moment. That's why it's on our list. Is like, we still bring it up, like when we're feeling bad, be like, well, we always got Kimmy Schmidt, you know, and.
I've had it suggested to me multiple
It
times, and everybody glowingly reviews it that is suggested to me. I haven't had a chance to see
and it is nice because it's not one of those like The Office. Everybody and their brothers watch The Office, and you hear about it to death, and it is funny. It's great, and I love it. Haley, I love you. If you're watching this, I know you love The Office, and I do too. Big Brother does. But Kimmy Schmidt was just one of those things that it was what we needed in the moment, and it is. And it's kind of nice because it is a bit more of a your TV show because not everybody's going to get the reference or everything. Nice. You can be a little bit of a hipster about it, I guess. But I would suggest to anybody. It was an absolute delight.
What I loved about that show is that I had been a big 30 Rock fan.
Oh.
You know, and so both these two shows are from the mind of Tina Fey.
Yeah.
And I think in Kimmy Schmidt, you get to see her working without the constraints of network television.
Yes.
You know, where I think Netflix, their kind of philosophy tends to be like, you're Tina Fey, here's some money, give us a show.
Yep.
And so the pacing on Kimmy Schmidt is off the rails. It
Yes.
can be so fast where it's like jokes are just coming at you so fast that you miss a few if you're not paying attention. It's like 30 Rock had a bit of that, but I think they really even up the pace even more in Kimmy Schmidt, and I really loved it for that.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad. It is. Yeah.
30 Rock was a near miss from my top 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
love
30
the
Rock.
show.
I actually, you know, that didn't even make my sitcom runners up. I kind of forgot about it, so I'm glad it got brought up. 30 Rock is awesome.
So, a spoiler for Jeremy's list, it's on his top 10.
Nice.
So, but speaking of lists, we'll go back to me. Me. Just kidding. Anyway, my number 7, SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, yeah.
So, I got to SpongeBob at a time where it was probably inappropriate for a person of my age to be watching it, right? It was 1999.
I mean, I'm
No
sitting here
such
talking
thing.
about My Little Pony, so
Yeah.
go for it, dude.
Like, I was 12
That's a
years old. I didn't even
cultural
have
thing, yeah.
Nickelodeon. I experienced it first vicariously through Jeremy, of all people, actually. And then shortly thereafter, I was able to rent DVDs of it and stuff like that because I never had cable. And it is like, if you look at it just like surface level, it's a kids comedy show, whatever, right? But the things that they were able to do and the types of jokes that they were able to pull off, and like in the setting and the characters and their dynamic, there's a reason it's run for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
Please
Right.
tell me that's your nose. But like,
It's just like and some of the conceptually, like some of the ideas are like, oh, we're gonna have SpongeBob make a bubble clone of himself and what happens or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Or the one where it's like the horror film and they're afraid of this the
oh,
Ashley
the
slasher
spatula. Yep.
showing up, and then like the random Nosferatu reference at the end with the light switch and everything. Like, it's just so off the walls that you can get a reference to anything in this show for 6-year-olds.
Yep.
And it's just like I even like the more new episodes, and there's a lot of series that suffer from just like longevity fatigue. But even the new episodes are still rock solid. They're better than the average show, even now. It's like, are they not as good as they once were? Sure. But they're still really freaking good.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah, I grew up when it was age appropriate thing. Well, like I was probably like right at the kind of tail. My friend Aaron Illikin was like into it, so that's where a lot of my memories go to him. So I'd watch it every other weekend at my dad's house, or I'd go to my buddy's house and I'd watch it there. And sometimes at my mom's. But I loved it because like I was right at coming at that age where it's like that dumb offbeat humor. But like you said, you catch those references, you catch like a little bit more of the adult humor in there, and it's such a quotable show. Like you can strike a conversation with just about anybody. I to this day, if I'm early, like, I thought you said we're gonna be late. Yeah, late to being early. And like, I like and every time I can't help myself. I gotta. Who you call the pinhead? Like
I said it to Wumbo.
yeah, or East. I thought you said Weast. Like there's a quote in SpongeBob for absolutely anything, and with meme culture being what it is, like. It is, yeah, it's a good pick, for
It's
sure.
not just a boulder.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's a rock.
It's a rock.
We're gonna have to fight.
Oh.
Show fight.
Show fight.
So
Yes.
I'm not the biggest SpongeBob fan. You know, and I came out at a young enough age to have been into it. Like my friends were into it and stuff. And I've seen episodes, and I have laughed. You know, but I can't watch it without thinking that early Ren and Stimpy was just so much better at the same thing.
I was going to bring up the fact that I do think it was that era's Ren and Stimpy, though.
Yeah.
Although Ren and Stimpy really took it to, like, are you kidding me? Like, just, like,
You're
so
good at
much.
the voices.
That's all I do. But I agree. I would say that because, they got those extreme close-ups from Ren and Stimpy.
Right. Was it
I've
even the
actually
same
never
creators
seen a
behind
Ren
it?
and Stimpy episode.
So I mean, I think they're similar in a lot of ways. The style of joke, the way they use close-ups, the way they kind of like use gross-out humor. Ren and Stimpy was just more my thing. I think is what it boils down to.
Swanky comments that Ren and Stimpy pushed things beyond the limit. I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
Matt says we just met SpongeBob. Nice guy.
Of course he did.
And then we have a couple
Matt's
of
met
spam
everybody.
comments.
Yeah.
Matt has met everybody. So that's my pick, and I'm glad that we finally got to one that we didn't all agree on.
Yep,
Yeah.
we made it.
And I can see how SpongeBob can be a bit much. My wife hates SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Like, there's times I'm trying to sneak it on TV to watch with the kids because I want to watch it. And she's like, SpongeBob. And I'm like, the kids wanted it. And she's like, who is this girl? So like, we don't know. I'm like,
You got caught again.
got.
All right.
Where are we?
Number 7?
Okay.
Oh, man.
So I made up my own genres at times. This genre is series connected to a cinematic universe. There's not a whole ton of picks. It was up between Mandalorian and WandaVision, and I had to choose WandaVision. I don't want to rehash the same stuff that we already talked about, but it serves as a really interesting deconstruction of the history of the sitcom. And it just also fits into the MCU as just a really, really interesting kind of offbeat story, the kind of which they've never really done. So I really enjoyed it. I wanted to get some newer stuff into my list, so I very deliberately kind of created that genre in my mind. Mandalorian's also wonderful, so check that one out too, people.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I really enjoyed WandaVision, but I will say that I think Loki is the better.
I haven't watched Loki yet, and
I
I'm
actually
ready.
just finished the first season last year.
I'm back and forth because what I appreciate the cinematography of WandaVision.
Oh yeah, easily. There's
More.
there's some crusty shots in Loki.
So there's one. My favorite moment in WandaVision is in the first episode, because it's shot like a 50s sitcom, and 50s sitcoms were always shot from afar, so you never get a camera in between two characters, right? It's always outside of the action. And so in episode 1, you have this wonderful moment where as the audience, you're starting to realize that things are not quite right for this in this world, and all of a sudden they place the camera in between two actors. And so if you don't do camera stuff, you might not notice why things feel different, but instinctually, you know that something has just changed in the show. I think it's wonderful. It's a really wonderful moment, and there's a ton of moments like that in this series, where they're doing just interesting stuff with the whole repertoire of filmmaking. They use everything in this show. It's amazing.
So also, I absolutely loved WandaVision, but what it did wasn't what I was looking for. I appreciate all the stuff that it did, but what I was looking for was a continuation of the development of the characters in sort of a big way. And basically the entire series, if you cut out, if you take out the stuff that you liked, it's just the last 2 episodes where you realize that Wanda's gone insane.
And that's kind of, it does, I think, lose its speed towards the end, because it basically becomes an MCU third act. And so that I was a little disappointed by that, but the first few episodes more than make up for it.
So also the thing that I liked about Loki is I was like, okay, so what's this? I had no idea what it was going to be when I was going into it. The concept, I think I can say without spoiling anything, that broadly, there's a lot to do with the way that time operates in a certain frame of mind, right?
Cool.
How does time, and I've been obsessed with time travel movies forever. I've said that like if I could ever make one movie, I want to make the perfect time travel.
He said buddy cop like 10 minutes ago.
I know.
No. I think that I could make a buddy cop movie now.
Oh,
I don't think
sure.
even now. I don't think I could make a perfect time travel movie. I think that I have some concepts that would.
Hey, have you ever seen Primer?
I have. I love that movie.
Primer's awesome.
So I spent a summer watching every time travel movie basically that ever existed. For my capstone in college, I wanted to make the short of what I hoped would become like my time travel film.
Yeah.
And I felt really strong about it. I explained it. It's like, here's the problem when you're trying to pitch ideas like a super complicated time travel movie.
You can't really elevator pitch that as
like,
well.
It's like I wrote the scripts. Everybody like was like, yeah, script's good, but I don't understand. Like, people for some reason need to understand the time travel. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like if you can't clearly convey in 9 minutes, you can't clearly convey. You can. I'd take that back. You absolutely can clearly convey the time travel, but at the cost of character development.
Yeah.
In 9 minutes, unless you're I'm not an incredible filmmaker. I'm sure that there's somebody who could do it, but I couldn't do it in 9 minutes. So then I had to do something else. But that was anyway. So the way that they look at time, and then Loki as a character undergoes so much, and they stress him from all of these different angles, and the way that he responds and develops over the course of the series is phenomenal.
That's cool because he is one of the best characters in the MCU.
He is, and I was worried too with Owen Wilson. Wow, that
I didn't know that he was in the show until he was in it. And I was like, whoa, Owen Wilson.
I was worried, and I was like, no, they are perfect playing off of each other.
Oh yeah,
so good.
So well done, and Tom Hiddleston is the best Loki you could ask for. Like, give it.
There's one with like a scathing wit and superiority, and one with like this casual like snarkiness.
Yep.
But also like he knows stuff, so it's like the way that they just back and forth.
They're just topping each other, and it is so well done in that way, and it's I had a train of thought and I lost it.
I feel bad because I stole your pick and just started pitching Loki.
No, it's okay. It's totally okay. On the subject of like TV series in cinematic universes, I tried to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier for like 11 minutes, and it was just like all fighting, and I was just like, click.
That one, I liked it, but what lost me, because it's more, again, it's more traditional. I was looking for more of a buddy comedy thing, because every time they've been in a scene together, they're always like, they're in the car, they're, like pulling seatbelts and stuff. Like,
yeah.
I wanted that, and they did it. They had some of it, but there's some forced stuff, and the whole thing is like, I'm not going to get too into spoilers, I guess, but like they're trying to find a group of people that are killing people for reasons. Yep. And they're like, killing is bad and heroes shouldn't kill anybody. When the first 5 minutes of the movie is like them whipping people out of airplanes.
Yeah, that's true. They
instantly just it took me out of that point where I'm like, because like, yeah, that happens. Like I get Spider-Man catches somebody, snaps the neck, whatever. Like,
yeah,
but like
Superman cuts people in half when he catches them when they're falling.
Like we're not gonna.
Batman flips a cop car and kills 3 cops.
Yep, but like you can kind of ignore it. But this one was so on the nose of like, I have grabbed this guy. I'm gonna look at the camera and say, "You're going out the vehicle now." Like, and then to try and be like, "Oh my gosh, somebody did something to a civilian."
Yeah,
it's like, no, you also did those things.
Yeah.
Right.
To bad guys, sure, but he thought that was a bad guy.
Well, that settles it. I'm still not going to watch that show, but I was always planning on watching Loki, and I'm definitely watching Loki.
It's worth it. It is. I would, it's tough, but I would agree with you that Loki is a superior show, but cinematic wise, WandaVision takes the cake.
What WandaVision does with the form is far superior.
It's crazy.
But I think the content of
Loki WandaVision's a play. It's a theatrical play.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Where Loki is a movie. Like, anyways, we should probably move on.
We're back to the MCU.
Yeah.
What's your number 7?
Yeah.
I think
it's
me.
You,
it's me. This is hard because this is where it started. This is my mid list where I'm like, I think I'm going to go with Gravity Falls.
Yeah. Yes. Gravity Falls. I mean, I haven't watched the whole thing by any means, but it almost made some of my runners up.
I will say for the next few of my picks here, it's not a hard number rating. They could have any way, any mood. That's the thing is I need to be in a certain mood for certain things. And Gravity Falls.
Okay, sorry, we just lost
No,
focus for a second.
That's okay.
We're back.
We lose focus on the show all the time. It is such a well put together show. My girls love it. I don't know why they do, but they do. It's 3 boys and 2 girls is what they call it.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
Swanky said, "I wish Gravity Falls came out in my childhood instead of when I was in my 30s."
Oh.
Still an amazing show.
It is.
Yeah,
It is still a
totally.
wonderful show, and like it was one of those that as it was actually on air, I'd catch things and I'm like, I hear there's like decoder rings in this stuff, and I hear there's like this or there's a little bit more to it. And my wife was watching another set of twins and a 5-year-old at the time or whatever, and I'd catch it and be like one of those things. I'm picking up my girls and I'm like, look, I'm like, oh hey, that cool show's on. I'm interested. It's like an Edgar Wright movie. The more you go back and watch it, the more you pick up.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, it's been out long enough, but like the Time Traveler guy, speaking of perfect time traveler movies, which is Back to the Future. I'm sorry, you can't make a better one than that.
I'm going to try.
You're gonna try.
Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time.
You're going to try it, but
Good luck.
Good luck, man. Don't meet your heroes, I guess. But
Yeah, just try and clone them and make them better.
Yeah.
That's not the downfall of every evil villain.
Yeah, that's but like you see the Time Traveler guy in the back of the first episode, like Alex Hirsch made it short. He's like, it is 2 seasons.
Yep, the intentionality behind just we're telling the story in the amount of time that it needs to be told.
And in doing so, which again was going back to the British shows, the Mushishi, shows that are intended to be short, come off so much better because you know where that end is. You know what you're working towards. And for that kind of stuff to put, then sprinkle and stuff, be like, oh yeah, this guy's going to come from the end, so I'm going to put little clues to it in the beginning. And to see all these little things that pop up, and like I watch all those YouTube things, like top 10 things you didn't know. I'm like, I bet, but I always learn something new.
Yeah.
It is funny. I think it is a good. There's a lot of good morals in that show.
It very easily could have been a Monster of the Week show and just stuck to a formula where there's some weird happenstance and they solve it or whatever.
Yeah.
But everything sort of pushes them towards this ultimate goal, which you don't get in serialized television usually anyway, and specifically not children's serialized television.
Another show that does that really well that everyone should check out is, you probably know what I'm going to say, right? Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yep.
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 I think
It's
mine,
three-
Kara's, and Jeremy's lists.
It's 3 seasons because it was meant to be 3 seasons. It's a trilogy.
It is.
And so it functions super well on all the levels you're talking about.
Yep.
And Mark Hamill's in it.
I knew that would be on your guys' list, so it was specifically off of mine. We're using it as a teaching tool this year in school.
Oh, no way. That's
yep.
awesome.
So we're gonna like watch an episode and kind of talk about the values and the stuff in there and blah blah blah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, Avatar is on my honorable mentions just because I knew it would be on everybody's list.
Right. Well, and for Gravity Falls, as a horror guy, I think it's super important that there are things that can be entry points for kids into the horror genre. You know, like as a kid, for me, it was Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yep.
And I love when I saw Gravity Falls, I'm like, oh, this can be the next generation's entry point for like monsters and spooky stuff. So I think that is super freaking cool.
Really quick aside, have you watched Fear Street yet?
No, I haven't. I hear it's amazing though.
It is so good. I guess we could call that a series, right? Because it's a 3-part movie series.
Yeah. It's kind of a film trilogy. I guess
we won't.
The lines between movie series and TV series are blurring.
Maybe we
year.
save it for when we have you, me, and Matt on for a horror trilogy come Halloween.
Oh, that would be fun.
I'm trying to plan out like
super
an
fun.
October of horror.
The thing is
horror
like you have
takeover.
again, we're a spooky bunch of people, so like, how do you feel October? We're all in it.
Yeah.
We're all in the mix. But yes, absolutely watch it. It is a hard R rating.
Cool.
But it is that perfect balance of understanding the genre and loving it and paying homages to it, but not.
Matt Rasmussen says yes.
Yes.
Oh,
You get the approval.
Matt and I haven't talked about this show or this film series yet, and to know that he likes it speaks volumes.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one. I'm giving myself time in between each of them, and it's I've been blown away.
Nice.
And like, I don't know. We'll move on. I do want to talk about another time.
So you know what's hilarious is you stole my number 6 pick.
Really?
Gravity Falls was my number 6 show, so we can just jump.
That's funny.
There we go.
Right,
well,
right, Pat, like I don't think there's anything more to discuss. It's basically, to me, it is one of the few perfect shows.
I agree. I will agree with you.
If someone's like, hey, we want to make a remake of Gravity Falls, I'm like, there's no reason to. Like,
No.
literally, they didn't do anything
You don't
wrong.
need to add any. You don't need to add anything to it. Of course, we'd love it, but that's what I like about short runs. Sure, I would love to know more about this character. I would like to know more about what they did. They came back.
Well, and Alex Hirsch said that the characters will go on to something else. It's just not going to be Gravity Falls.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Sure.
like they'll have some other adventure that doesn't necessarily relate to what they've already done. So, but yeah, there's I don't think there's anything else to do there. I think it's one of the. I just couldn't put it higher than some of these other ones on here because I think that there's other. One of my big criteria was like how did it sort of like change or elevate the form, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so I was like, and the storytelling for a children's show, like it's clearly made for children, but with adults in mind, and like being able to tell a story like that, and like use like SpongeBob, you don't expect somebody to just take information from one episode to the next, right?
Yeah.
This, you can watch it out of order and appreciate an individual episode, but the sum of the parts is like greater than, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
Like, so like if you can enjoy it and like be able to attach and like take that persistence of memory and what's happened already and how the characters develop and change, and there's nothing I think they can do to make it better.
One of my favorite things to do is watch it on time. So you go online, you find the dates when what day of summer this is happening.
Oh, that's cool.
So you'll have episodes that are back, like some of them like they goes overnight, so you can't always do it perfectly. But to watch it on the days they fall on is such a fun way to do it, because you get
cool.
kind of that real life time split, and you're like, oh, it's been like 3 or 4 days since the zombies attacked Uncle Stan, or like Grunkle.
I didn't know there was a real time watch.
There is, because it's all in one summer, and
Yeah.
they
say the
pin
date?
dates. There's a few episodes where they're a little bit, like they're a bit iffy. There's some time travel stuff, and some episodes like where it's like there's a couple days in a show, so you can't naturally do it. But it's like watching the MCU in chronological order. Like, there it is again. It does oversaturate. We've answered our question.
Yes.
But it is. That is an absolute joy to do it, and it's a fun way to walk yourself through summer. So next summer, I advise you guys to try that.
That's
Cool.
cool. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
All right, Keith's number 6.
Well, for the genre for number 6 is anthologies and horror anthologies, which I am a huge fan of. So many good ones. There's Black Mirror, there's Tales from the Crypt, but I had to choose the granddaddy. It's Twilight Zone.
Yes.
The anthology of all anthologies.
It's beautiful.
Just
So good.
I mean,
The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I can't say anything about it that hasn't already been said a billion
No,
times. It's a perfect TV series. Just so many iconic episodes and iconic moments.
The way that they can take the allegorical content of it to be able to make you think about a topic in a way that you wouldn't have thought about it before. That's the part that gets me every time.
And I mean, it's one of the most analyzed episodes, but the episode with Burgess Meredith, finally he's alone and he can read, and then he
I was
breaks
gonna bring
his
that
glasses,
up.
and then the apocalypse is all around him. It's like, for them to accomplish that amount of storytelling in 20 minutes it's like remarkable.
It
and
is.
they have to introduce that character as well, like start
set up
from
the world,
nothing.
set up the character,
and have like the main brain bending moment also in the climax, and they did it like almost every week.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Great show. And then the Jordan Peele remake is it's
Haven't given it a shot
Oh,
yet.
have not seen it yet either.
really good.
Is it? Good.
Yeah, and they do some really interesting things in it. I think I can spoiler a little bit. Probably nothing you wouldn't see in the TV promo. But in the season 1 finale, they bring back like a deep fake Rod Serling and do this kind of like hinting at like this is all one universe type thing, and there's time travel, and it's all kind of like mind melting in a super Twilight Zone kind of way. So I think Jordan Peele, better than anyone else, really did the original series justice.
Awesome.
So yeah, Twilight Zone, love it.
Love it.
Amazing.
Good choice. Absolutely. Yep.
Can't go wrong with Twilight Zone.
Absolutely not. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we're probably gonna go a little bit over today.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I got
well,
nothing to do.
Yep.
yeah, neither do I. We're good here. So kids are already in bed. Love you,
For those of
honey.
you watching that have stuck with us, start putting together your top 10 lists.
Yeah.
And we can fight. All right. What
Yeah.
do you got for...
And again, this is in no particular order. This is one of the ones I mentioned up on the top that I do believe would not exist with the more popular show, but I do believe is superior, and that is Parks and Rec.
With that intro, I had a feeling you were going to say Parks and Rec.
I love The Office. Everybody loves The Office. Parks and Rec could not exist without The Office. It would never have come. But I do find it to be superior in almost all facets.
Interesting.
I think the comedy hits better. I like the characters more because you get to see them interact with the world even more. And it might be just be like my eternal fear of office work that kind of like I would work at the Parks and Rec building. I wouldn't work in the office. But like, Ron, he's on purpose. Like, get my fingy.
The voices. So good at the voices.
I just Ron Swanson, like all of them, I have a heart. Like it's a wonderful show when you can't necessarily pick a favorite character.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. The only thing that I know from it is when Ron Swanson goes into places like, I want you to make me all of the bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm worried that you didn't understand what I said. I want you to take all of the bacon and all the eggs that you have.
I don't want a lot. I want
it
all.
So as far as Office versus Parks and Rec goes, when The Office is at its best, I prefer it over Parks and Rec over at its best. But The Office does not stay good for very long, in my opinion. Like when Jim and Pam get together, I think the show loses almost all of its dramatic
about when
tension.
I started phasing. I was heading to college. I couldn't watch as often as I did. Me and my sister Haley, again, I love you. She's rolling mad at me right now because she loves that show. And she always thought I liked it even more than I did, and I do. But you're right. After that, like that was kind of that build-up, and you got it, and then you're like, well...
Right, and, Dwight and Michael are hilarious, and they're like the two stars of the show, really, but they're not where the heart of the show comes from. That's, none of the dramatic tension, or not much of the dramatic tension comes from that. It's all Jim and Pam. And once they resolve that central question for the audience, I think the show lost almost all of its steam. Like you're saying, so I think Parks and Rec was more successful than The Office at being an ensemble show where all the characters have something interesting going on.
Yes, they all have character development. There's a point where they've all had failures. They've tried different things. Like Aziz opens up how many different stores in between, and they come and they go back. Andy and I can't think of her name right now. But like they're on again, off again, and like everything. And
April Ludgate.
April, yep,
Took me a
April,
second.
and a cat and a dog. Like when somebody described them, like April's a cat, Andy's a dog, and they just approach that life like that. And it was like it is. I don't know, but everyone had their little arc.
Yep.
And you beautiful tropical starfish, or tropical fish. All the I don't know. I'm
gonna have to check it out. It's been suggested to me by a gajillion people, same as The Office, and I feel like this is a pretty glowing recommendation.
Well, for the last season, I think they took a little bit of a break, and then they did a short season finale, and it took place like 1 or 2 years in the future. And it's hilarious because all of a sudden in this future, which is probably like 2016 or something, there's like drones everywhere, and that was like one of the running jokes.
Yeah.
Because at the time it was like, oh, they're gonna start doing deliveries with drones, and Amazon's gonna just drop a package off of a drone on your doorstep.
Yeah.
And they really played on like some of the like futurism, really well, I thought, and really played for laughs really well.
Yep.
Interesting. Whose pick was that?
That was my 6.
All right, so going back to me,
all
my
about
number
you.
5, BoJack Horseman.
Never seen it.
I have been suggested. I saw it as just another Rick and Morty. I didn't want to deal with another drunk, obscene character. As much as I like Rick and Morty.
That neither of you had seen it.
Oh, really?
Because this is my time to convince you to watch.
Pitch it.
So
we're in an elevator.
When I first saw, I thought it was just going to be one of those things where it's just like, oh, it's a wacky alternate, reality, where it's like whatever. But so basically, like the gist of it is, this guy's essentially like Bob Saget.
Okay.
Right, but if after Full House, he basically just had nothing. Right, and he's just been coasting on this late 80s, early 90s sitcom fame forever. And, he's depressed, he's drug addicted, blah, 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 blah. and he's like surrounded himself with just like he hates himself essentially, right? And then the impetus for this change is like he has to start examining himself because this publisher wants to pay him a bunch of money to write his autobiography, and like he keeps saying he's going to do it and he doesn't do it. This is all like the first episode. But it
the
sets
way
up,
you're pitching this, it does not sound like a cartoon about a horse.
No.
It sounds like a live action drama.
Yeah.
So Will Arnett's the voice of BoJack, and it's his acting is incredible. But then they hire a ghostwriter for him, and she's like asking him all these questions, and it's like forcing him to deal with this stuff that he just doesn't want to deal with, and recount like the past. He was a terrible person. From like the mid '90s to the present day, he's just been a piece of crap. And the base of the series is him rectifying what his goals are. Like, he had no goal. Like, he was just like living like, you know, one drink to the next essentially or whatever. And like rectifying his terrible behavior with, is it worth me like even trying to change at this point and all that. And like some of the episodes go from incredible, like gut-bustingly funny and ridiculous to like soul-crushingly depressing.
I've heard about the funeral episode and how that was handled.
There were oh my god, like and you talk about like playing with form and stuff like WandaVision.
Thank you.
There's an episode where he has to go underwater for this thing, and there's no dialogue in the entire episode.
Nice.
And it's just like him, like he ends up. I'm not even gonna describe that, but it's just like they just take risks because they're on Netflix. They're like, we're just going to do this thing and explore how this character can survive in a world where he can't communicate with anybody.
Nice.
And then the funeral episode they mentioned that's near the end of the series and stuff, and like the psychological just like torture that he's going through. It's incredibly good.
Okay.
I'm sold. I mean, I have friends that watch it.
Yeah.
I've never watched it myself. That underwater episode you're talking about, this is probably going to be a tangent, but connected to Parks and Rec, have you guys ever seen Aziz Ansari's Master of None?
I meant to, and I never was able. Like,
yeah,
I got distracted.
Haven't watched it yet.
There's an episode where the characters, I think they're in a grocery store, and they passed by two other characters that we've never met before, communicating with sign language, and the camera just drifts and ends up following these two characters, communicating through sign language. And there's subtitles at the bottom so you can understand it. And you've never met these characters, and you drift with them for like 10 minutes, and there's no sound at all. So it's kind of a funny experience to be watching TV, and then all of a sudden you just 10 minutes of silence. Right. So similarly, just playing with the form.
And that's because like I have hearing. I have maybe 10, 15% hearing in this ear.
Oh no, we should have switched sides.
He never lets me have Jeremy's chair. He says I'm not cool enough.
Oh,
he says Jeremy farts in that chair, not little, not you, little page boy. Yeah, that's Jeremy's chair to fart in, and Jeremy's alone. And you said some mean things to me.
I'm surprised he's even on this episode. I broke him down pretty hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'm good. Anyways, but again, having that silence is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And to a point, this is a tangent. One of my very good friends, Iris Keller, her mother, she said, was really into horror movies because she was deaf, but she could see what was going on because everything was so big and so acted.
Oh,
she loved
sure.
horror movies because she didn't necessarily need to understand the plot to know what, or hear the plot to know what was going on.
Right, you don't need to get every bit of dialogue. Yeah, and that's one of the same reasons that horror movies translate so well internationally.
Yeah.
And comedies don't.
Yep.
Because the dialogue can be very cultural, but with horror, scary is scary.
Scary
no matter
is
what
scary. It's a
culture you're
universal
part of.
language.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. So BoJack Horseman, I gotta check it out.
We'll
It's
check
time.
her out.
And the series is done too, so you get this conclusive end
Nice.
and everything. Fantastic show in my opinion. All right.
Now we're just gonna cruise because my number 5 was game shows and Jeopardy, which Jeopardy's great.
Yep.
On
Jeopardy's
to the next
great.
one.
Fine, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna complain the whole time. Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I relate to Bob. I heard in an interview one time where they were talking about the difference between the voice acting between Archer and Bob, same voice actor. For those who don't know, and I was told that Archer makes everyone else's world harder, and Bob, the world makes his life harder.
Oh,
and like that's the energy going into it. And talking about a good family
Brad says
structure.
best show on TV.
Me and my wife love it. Like I love finding shows. We do watch Walking Dead. That's one of my honorable mentions. it wavers.
Yeah, I totally forgot about Walking Dead.
We
I was so into it for so long, but it does get kind of questionable.
Yeah, we've watched everything
Yeah.
through, and now we're just seeing it out to the end. I still think there's very good moments in it. I'm not going to get into Walking Dead. It was off the list just because of its
consistency
issues.
issues.
Yep,
yeah.
yep. But Bob's Burgers, time and time again, has that bluey where it's showing a actual very loving, destructive family, not in like the Simpsons way, not in the Family Guy way, where it's like Bob is absolutely over his kids and his wife all the time, but you can tell
I'm
the
just trying to
amount
make a
of
good
love.
burger over here.
Yeah, right. But you can tell how much they all love and truly care for each other. And some of the lines of like, it's shown, not told, a lot of times. And like the stuff he goes through, they go through for each other, even though they're at each other's wits' end, they deal with stuff like that very well. And it's one of those shows too where they can take some cultural stuff, and they normalize it in a way where they're making a point without making a point. Like, we didn't bring this issue up, but like it is I absolutely love Bob's Burgers, and I think it is one of the top American animated television shows, if not probably my favorite.
So I had this problem with Fox animated
that's...
shows where I would never give them a chance at the beginning, and then they'd be on for 3 or 4 years. Then I would start watching. They'd be like, "Why was I not watching this from the beginning?" And so Family Guy is Family Guy, whatever. Like, I never thought that I would like it. I ended up it's an enjoyable show. It's not top 10 worthy. American Dad, same thing. Again, another Seth MacFarlane show.
Yeah.
Really fun to watch. Again, it's not a top 10 show, but something that I never gave a chance to. And then like Bob's Burgers comes out, it's like, man, it looks weird. Who cares?
So
about
it's
the guy
close
making
to home
burgers,
animation.
whatever.
Yeah.
And like I watch like the first like 3 episodes, like once the first season's on like Netflix or Hulu or whatever. I was like, holy crap, this is so good.
Did you watch a lot of it?
I've only seen the first 2 seasons, I think.
Oh, okay. So I've only seen like maybe 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it.
It's definitely I would agree that like it is a top 10 worthy show.
Yeah. And their holiday episodes are wonderful. Not even just Halloween, although they do have some of my favorite Halloween specials ever. I almost like the Thanksgiving ones more. Because Bob dealing with the turkey every year is just... How is your life going to be ruined by everybody else? All Bob wants to do is cook the perfect turkey. And how is he not going to this year? And anyways, we've talked on it long enough. We don't want to drill, but Bob's Burgers...
Yeah, so I would say like the best way to enjoy it like the first time is like if you're in the middle of doing something, or if you're doing something you just need something to sort of like distract you a little bit from it, so it's not so terrible. It's something
Bob's Burgers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And you'll get hooked in.
Yeah, and then eventually you'll just stop doing what you're doing and just start focusing.
Right.
It's a character show. The more you know the characters, the funnier it is.
That's kind of sort of how I watched the episodes that I've seen anyways. Kind of just like hanging out with friends, and they're super into it, and it's on, and we're watching it, but we're also kind of like chatting while we watch it. That's kind of how I experienced
it. And that's an
cool.
absolutely fine way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is South Park.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Man, is that show still on?
it is.
I haven't watched a new episode of South Park in like 10 years.
College is when I really hit it, and I knew it when it came out. My stepbrother used to watch it, and I thought it was cool and edgy to watch.
Well,
Yeah.
So the initial allure of South Park to me, and I think this sort of speaks to the way that, like, as you start learning more about the world and, like, nuance and subtlety, you start learning more about, like, or you start enjoying things differently. So, like, so South Park, same as SpongeBob, came out in 1999. So I was 12 years old, so, like, there's no way I was ever going to be allowed to watch it. So there was this, like, thing where it's like, oh, we're going to go over to so-and-so's house and watch South Park or whatever, right? Type of thing where it's like, and like there's the edginess part of it was what sold it, right? It was like, they're going so extreme on these things. But then, so until I was like maybe 15 or 16, I didn't really watch it that much. I watched the South Park movie well after it came out, and I loved the South Park movie so much, I wrote many, many papers in college about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
But, and then... After I graduated from high school, I started getting back into South Park and like watching with like a different type of like intentionality behind like how are they doing this stuff or whatever, right? Like as a person who's trying to learn how to create media, it's like, why is this media so powerful? And I realized like they are the masters of telling you something without telling you something, right?
Yeah.
So and they can be as blatant as just saying it's like we're dealing with this, but they're dealing in such an absurd, over the top way that. I can understand like people don't like offensive things or whatever, but sometimes you have to beat somebody over the head with something for them to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they deliver this material, like they're like one of the last bastions of American media where you can say or do basically anything because the people at least that are in charge of making it, greenlighting it, know there's a greater point. Yeah. They know that they're trying to communicate this greater idea to people. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, South Park is just a bunch of, butt and fart jokes and like being over the top. But it's for such a specific reason that people don't appreciate unless they actually watch it.
Well, that's what I came to love about the show is that it started, I thought of it as kind of like Charlie Brown on crack, and then it evolved into this kind of like really interesting political and social commentary, whereas it was like a really crude political cartoon.
Yes.
And I haven't watched a new episode in ages, but I did watch it religiously for a really long time. And I mean, I'd have to rewatch them to say this for certain, but I think it started off really funny. And it stayed really funny, but it became really poignant at a certain point. I don't think it started off really funny.
No, I would say by the time it's about season 3 into season 4 is where that tonal shift happened, where it started being like, we can be more than just the people making these wacky butt jokes.
Yeah, and in that way, it kind of like evolved with me. Like starting off in middle school, going through high school, and then by college, I was like, wow, South Park's really smart. And so that was cool.
I agree.
So that's my number 4 of all time.
Top 3s, boys.
Well, you got to get through your 4s first.
My 4s.
So Keith's number 4.
Okay, so I'm on serious animated TV, not Japanese. So serious animated American television, but still kind of for kids. Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
Yep.
And so
I basically had that pegged for you, so that's why it's not on mine.
Well, that was the show, and now I still seek out shows where it's like when I'm anticipating watching the show, I'm like, what's going to happen today? Like, I'm on the edge of my seat just thinking about what this show is going to give me. And that was me at 9 years old or 10 years old or something, coming home, 4:30 on Fox. I'm going to watch Batman, and it's going to be the greatest thing I've ever seen. And that show introduced a lot of things to me. Like concepts of duality and multiple personalities and fighting with your dark side and having maybe some impulses that are not super productive, but how do you turn things like that into something productive? And Batman for a kids show dealt with a lot of stuff like that, and so that's why I love it.
Teen Titans was one of my honorable mentions going off the Batman.
Teen Titans is awesome
for a lot of those same reasons, and it was the first anime American show, predated Avatar, Last Airbender, where they did that kind of anime style into it. And I'm not going to go into it long because it didn't make the list for a reason, but I agree. The Batman animated series is great, and I just wanted to throw Teen Titans in there just to have it.
Teen Titans is awesome. Yeah, and I'm in the minority. I think Teen Titans Go is also awesome. And
it's been really nice to talk to you.
Yeah. no. Have you seen the direct-to-DVD movie?
I heard that
collide?
Where they show the little
They I mean, it's one of these Crisis on Infinite Earth type things where the two teams fight each other. It is so good because they really make fun of all the reasons that people of the original series did not like Teen Titans Go. So
okay.
It's great. It's really
okay. Cool. Well, I'll maybe give it a shot, but I've got a few other things. But
I've still got some South Park comments coming in. I appreciate all the things you guys are saying about South Park, and I don't want to go back to it because I also want to get done with this episode someday.
Yeah.
But also hear what your other guys' picks are. Okay. But I agree with everything that's being said.
I'm sorry that every episode I am on goes exceedingly long.
He has the record for the longest recording we've ever done.
So me and Matt Rasmussen and Darrell all have records on this.
Yep.
Perfect.
Well, and Adam does too with 0 appearances.
Sick burn! Good thing the fire department's right here because
he's never gonna come on now. Sorry.
Sorry,
right,
sorry.
Let's keep the list moving. So,
so you're number 4.
My number 4, and I'm gonna try and go quick over it because I've talked to it to death on this. I'm gonna warn everybody. Here on out, it's all anime. I have no shame. I'm fine with it. It's what defined me growing up. I was able to keep it like I was a normal human, and I was able to still function as a huge anime guy with also understanding that deodorant and stuff is cool, not to throw people into it. You know, I don't want to be a jerk because I
That's
love
hilarious.
everybody, but there is times when I'm like, I know when it's appropriate to talk about anime and when it's not.
That's
Now-
the difference between you and everybody else that
Yeah.
watches anime.
Yep. Now is the appropriate time. Y'all are stuck with me in this
Yeah.
room. My number 4, Digimon.
Yes.
Never seen it.
So,
Adventure 1 and 2 are
Adve-
almost perfect television.
Again, I would say seasons 1 and 3 are nearly perfect for the reasons you brought up about the Batman animated series, and I know I've said this on here, but they deal with dark, heavy stuff for kids, but they bring it in a way that is so true, and it's an aside to it. It's not forced in. It is who these characters are. So season 1, Izzy, he's adopted. No, you don't know that till near the end. Like it was only supposed to be the first like 12 episodes. They're supposed to go fight Devamon. That was it. Sell the Digivice, sell some cards. And then they went on from there, and that's when they start bringing in these darker tones. It was the first animated series that I had saw, because it was one of my first introductions to anime, where I'm like, oh, things that happen in this one will happen in the next one. They have consequences, and it builds off each other. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the fact that real life problems, like you don't get divorce characters back in the early 90s. Like you didn't really talk about it as
Right.
much. Like Arthur did do a little bit of it. You know, Baxter had his, you know, like they would do some things, but so like Izzy was adopted and he had to struggle with, do my parents really love me? Sora was worried that she wasn't living up to her mother's expectations. Matt and TK were from a separated family and they lived in different groups and they loved each other, but they didn't get to see each other. And, you know,
Then
Joe...
Matt took on like the I need to be a father figure at way too young of an age.
Right, which made him this like edgy, dark character, and learning that like maybe like I can still be a caring person, but don't have to be like like forcing that father role. Joe is just overworked, you know, like he's one of those like the Japanese culture of like I need to succeed in this and study.
Like the consummate people pleaser type of like got to get the A+, got to make sure everybody knows that I respect them type of thing.
Sure.
And Tai, Kari, Mimi, although like Tai's like one of the main characters, his was just like I'm the leader and I have to keep people safe, and how do I do that?
Yeah, the
Kari's-
burden of leadership and like feeling like he has to be the one that does it.
and how they dealt with those heavy subjects in a show about things evolving and beating the tar out of each other. And
Yeah, it's like my lizard got twice as big and can shoot fire now.
my cat turned into a huge hubby-jubby angel woman, and like...
That's how they got the 14-year-olds.
That's how they got the so it taught me so much, and it was so defining in my life, and it made me feel so much better about a lot of situations that I was in or my friends were in a way that has always stuck with me. And I thought is it the perfect anime? No. Is it the best? Okay, maybe. But it's so inherent in part of who I am to a core that, and then season 3 is just also even darker and heavier. It's like, what would happen if this was, it's the Dark Knight of the series. What happens if Digimon come to the real world first, and the implications of them, like, wrecking the town and scaring people and being physically dangerous. Like, Renamon digivolves and Rika is, like, freaked out because all she wanted to do is her Digimon to digivolve. When it does, she sees that this thing just tears apart this other Digimon, and she's like, if she turns on me, if she even like farts wrong in my direction, I am dead. And just like the actual utter fear of like you're my partner, we're supposed to be friends, but like you turn to this beast, and if you go out of control, like people could die.
Yeah.
Like for a kid show to be like, if you screw up, you die, is insane. Second season, they do deal with death. One of the kids' older brothers is dead. And then, like, I don't know. I've gone on about enough. That is my 4, but it's just fundamental to who I am.
Yeah, it's very, very good. It's one of the things. So it didn't quite make my list, but it's one of the criteria was like, have I bought DVDs of this to rewatch? And that's something that I actually own. All of the good seasons of, to me.
Yes, and I agree. After that, you can give or take. But
when you're talking about like the role that played in your life, I'm actually kind of thinking that X-Men the animated series
I could see
was
that.
super similar for me.
Sure.
But we don't have to go into that.
Okay.
We can keep it moving.
All right, so top 3 time.
Yep.
My third best show of all time is House.
Oh,
Really?
Yes.
My parents were super into House. I tried, man. I really did.
So House was like the vanguard of the new wave medical dramas where it was like the most realistic depiction of actual things with like legitimate jargon that like would translate to like a hospital setting. It wasn't obviously there's over the top drama. There's stuff that would never fly at an actual place.
Yeah.
The way that he behaves is completely ridiculous, but I had seen other sort of like medical drama-y things before, but this came at a time, I think it came out in 2004, so I was like just about to graduate from high school.
Oh, we just went out of focus.
It's the ghost again.
Thing. I think, actually, Keith, do you want to move that way just a little bit? Nope, it's not that. Oh, yeah,
it was that.
Yeah, there's a face detection thing that I have to plop somewhere.
Oh,
And I usually stick it out to Jeremy because he's normally just like slouched and sitting
I just
there.
got to keep my face in one spot.
Yeah.
But it came at a time where I was like, I didn't realize that I would be like this into like medical dramas.
Yeah.
And it just took over for me. Give me 1 second, guys. Here,
But
Actually, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, but you said you love Sherlock.
and it is based on Sherlock
Right,
Holmes.
exactly. Like he's got his crippled buddy who helps him out and all the stuff he does and his drug addiction. Like it does not shock me at all that House is up there for your love of Sherlock. So
Well, we got another fight then, because I just don't like hospital shows. I can't get into them.
This is the only hospital show that I like.
My wife Maria,
actually
she
with
gets
you.
really into them. But I mean, I think there's just something about like confronting like real life things that could happen to me at any moment in TV that I'm like, I just don't really want to do this. I don't want to like.
Sure.
I've got an hour to spend on some recreational viewing.
Yeah,
I don't
not
want to
gonna.
be in a damn hospital.
One of the things that I think resonated the most with me, like, and it's a cliche at this point, but it was like the guy who played by his own rules thing is like, I'm 16, 17 at the time this like first comes out,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, yeah, authority, you don't know better, I know better, right?
Yep.
And obviously I didn't.
I think that is the paradigm for all hospital shows now. That's like the central theme in all of them.
But yeah, just like in the idea of somebody like so brilliant but so broken at the same time. Like his life is obviously a mess.
Mm-hmm.
He's got one thing that he's good at, and he doesn't even like care
yeah.
if people know that he's good at it. He just wants to be good at it, type of thing. And it's like there's just a lot of so again, like the DVD collection thing. I own every episode of House.
Oh wow, that's
So-
intense, dude.
It was just one of those things, and like most shows on this list, the later seasons fall a bit flatter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they break the cast up, they bring in different doctors, this and that, or whatever. There's developments, and probably one of the most questionable endings in television history.
Oh really? You mean season finale or
Series finale? Yeah. I would say that like it doesn't the way that it ends is weird. Right, it ends in a way that makes no sense at all. It makes you feel good for the character, but you could never do it, type of thing, without whatever it ended 10 years ago, but without spoiling it.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want to go and watch House, I strongly suggest it. I think that it holds up against any medical procedural today. It's just so my parents and my grandparents hated the show.
Yeah.
Because they were like, if I ever had a doctor like that, and I was like, well, at the end of the day, he might treat you like crap, but you're gonna live.
Right.
Yeah.
The joke was always like, if House shows up, it's like you're gonna live, but it's gonna be rough for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy about it, but you're going to be alive. Yeah.
Oh, Brad says there's nothing worse than the Seinfeld ending.
Oh, he's got a crystal ball.
All right. So anyway, that's my pick for number 3. I didn't think that it would be a universally loved one. It's just one that it hit me at the right time, and I absolutely adore.
Yeah. Okay, number 3. I got to pick here on the fly because it's getting tight.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna do The Simpsons.
Okay.
I mean, for like all the reasons, right? Seinfeld is like the original like animated family sitcom, and it's just brilliant on so many levels. And like, I think especially the first 5-ish seasons, probably more than that, maybe.
People usually draw the line at season 8 for the golden era.
And I think there are a lot of moments where they capture like family drama so well and so hilariously. And I think, in certain ways the show hasn't probably aged well for a lot of people, but I still love it. So
Yeah.
We don't have to dwell on The Simpsons. It's an amazing
but we do
show.
because that is actually my #1 show of all time.
I kind of figured it was.
Oh, okay.
And so I will say that when The Simpsons is at its best, there's literally no show better than The Simpsons.
It's the thing is that it's been on for so long that it's not always at its best.
And so I can say with confidence with anybody out there, I've seen The Simpsons as much as anybody can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched I think it's 34 seasons. I've watched every episode, with the exception of the 2 most recent seasons, where I've seen the episodes once or twice each. I've watched every episode at least 10 or 12 times.
You know, I still watch the Treehouse of Horror.
Oh yeah,
specials.
Got to tune in for that.
Those are almost always still good. You know,
So,
and there's always
was
something to watch for.
And that was my introduction to The Simpsons.
Oh, really?
So I remember being ushered out of so I go to my dad's every other weekend. We were at my grandparents' house, and I remember my uncle, and I didn't they were a lot more like laissez-faire on like, you can whatever, you know, you're here, TV's on, you can watch whatever's on it. Like American Werewolf in London was one of the first movies.
Oh,
Anyways,
yeah, great
so
movie.
thank you, Uncle. That's why I am the way I am. But Godzilla. Anyways, I remember walking in, and they were like, "Hey, this isn't really probably best for kids." And I saw it was The Simpsons because I recognized the characters enough to know, and then I associated I thought The Simpsons was a scary show for years and years and years because I was like, oh, I can't watch Simpsons because it's scary. And it just happened to be the Treehouse of Horror episode, and I wish I could remember what year it was so I could go back and watch it again.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough pieces to it. And then afterwards, it's it's a comedy, and then they do the horror episode. But
Do you remember what things they were spoofing?
I will think about it another time, and I will get back to you because
I
I
could
would.
probably
It's
tell
it's a deep memory. So yeah.
But so The Simpsons came out. Their first episode was in '89, so I was 2.
Yeah.
So I didn't start watching it until it was basically near the end of its golden era is when I started watching it. Then it was already syndicated. You could watch 2 episodes back to back every day of the week. I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons because the impression was the popular belief when it first came out was it's they're terrible human beings and they're going to teach you bad values and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
and
it's not that at all, especially in the early seasons.
Yeah.
There's always a moral at the end.
They were their era's kind of South Park, where South Park takes stuff to the extreme. That was the most extreme you could get on network television, is what they were doing, having people say damn and crap,
Yeah.
And obviously by the mid '90s, and it was a cultural phenomenon and stuff like that. It softened up a little bit, and I was started watching it, and I was I enjoyed it for its comedy first, and then I would keep going back to it, and then realize there's legitimately great storytelling happening here, and examining these characters in these situations. And as you get into later seasons, they sort of fell into this formula where insert Homer into this job, play it for laughs or whatever, right? They got away from that sort of genuineness of in Bob's Burgers when everyone actually cares, but you could tell the family loved each other and everything.
Yeah.
But they also got on each other's nerves, and they weren't the Cosbys or anything,
Right.
Yeah.
And
Look how that turned out.
well, the comparison at the time, they were the Huxtables, I should say.
Okay.
Right.
But just consistently, time and time again, I can turn on The Simpsons and just be this is phenomenal television. And then moving forward in time with it, so it went from they couldn't miss, they were shooting 100 for 100, right? And then eventually it's you get a clunker a couple times a season, no big deal. But then the proportion of just that wasn't such a great episode just started getting higher and higher to it's a genuinely mixed bag. They can still knock it out of the park. But they're an old slugger. They should have retired 3 seasons, whatever. They, for sports metaphors.
Yeah.
They can still do it, and from time to time it's great to see them recapture that magic and be they still have it in them. But they went from being the countercultural outsider examining the American society to being that, and you can't do both.
Yeah.
So once you become the culture, you lose all the edge. You lose all that ability to examine stuff in that way. And so it's it gives you different avenues to look at stuff or whatever, but that's where it sort of lost its edges once it became mainstream, once it became the thing everybody looked at as the best show on TV at the time.
Once South Park is doing, Simpsons did it. Then
Yep.
Yeah.
maybe they should have just stopped there.
So, but I would say, like, you know, if you're allowed to cherry pick stuff or whatever, it's like you could take the 10 best seasons of The Simpsons against the 10 best seasons of anything, and some things don't even run 10 seasons, and the Simpsons would destroy anything to me.
For me, Simpsons, it's largely like the space it like occupied in my life. You know, like Sunday evenings on Fox, like watching The Simpsons with my whole family. It's like some of the greatest memories. And preceding that, I remember, you know, being upstairs and hearing my dad like losing his mind, just laughing, totally busting a gut at The Simpsons, and me not being allowed to watch, and just like imagining what's happening because I could kind of hear it and be like, oh man, I bet that's amazing, you know. And then finally, I'm allowed to watch it, and it is amazing. You know, it's just like the greatest, you know, most irreverent thing that I've ever been allowed to watch. And we watch it as a family and just all bust a gut. You know, my mom's standing. She's not sitting down. She's standing, you know, in the doorway like, oh, I can't believe you're letting them watch this. But then she like watches the whole thing. She doesn't like leave, and she laughs, you know, and it's like, it's like, I can't believe the kids are allowed to watch this.
She's taking her moral high ground while still being able to go down into the...
Exactly. Still going down into the gutter with us watching The Simpsons in the mid-90s.
Hilarious.
But yeah, so it's just like I've got a lot of like really great memories watching The Simpsons. And then also Monday morning in school, it was like, oh, did you see The Simpsons last night? When, you know, TV was a shared experience, you know, and we all watched it at the same time.
That's the other thing where you missed it. It was gone forever, etc. We'll go on to how old men we are. And
yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so that was your number 3.
That was my number 3,
right,
yeah.
All right, let's do your number 3.
Okay. My number 3 is FLCL or Fooly Cooly. It is another short run anime.
I've heard of it.
Oh, okay.
It is balls to the walls wacky. It is, watching it as a kid, I understood it in a way that I didn't understand how I understood it. Does that make sense? It was dealing with chaos.
I don't know what this is, but I love it.
Yes, it's a coming of age story. But it's the first coming of age story that gets into the mind so well of just the chaos and like, this must mean something, and it does, but I know this there's like this outlying thing, and because this is like a family thing, I'm not going to go into a lot of but like a lot of things that come of age as you do it, like they explained it in that like mysterious mysticism way where it's like you get that they're alluding to something. You know, your dad's laughing at something that's naughty. But you can't explain why you know it, and you're not ever sure what it is. And there's parts of it like I had to like look up after me, like, what does this actually mean? Like this scene, and like the story itself isn't as important. It's the feeling that it describes of just that coming of age. Like maybe the girls, they wouldn't get it as much. I don't know, but like it's something I would give to my children to be like, you are in this age where everything's confusing and wild and crazy and nothing makes sense. And watch this show and be okay with that. And it was another one of those things that really informed, you know, like this kid's like opening line of the show is, you know, I'm in this small town, nothing ever interesting happens here. And I grew up in Cloquet, Minnesota, and like being in this small town, and it's like this medical mechanic is this factory that's moved in, or a factory town. We got 3-4 of them at the time. And like, just kind of like I could fit myself into that and like understand that it's an angsty, teenagey thing. Like going back, I still love it. Just nostalgia. The animation's amazing, and the soundtrack claps. The Pillows is a Japanese band, and they exclusively did the music for it. If there was a single American band that sounded like them, they would be my favorite band.
That's awesome.
Period. It's the music is so well done, and the fact that it's throughout the whole thing, it's like a well orchestrated thing, but it's this like punky Japanese poppy like. It fits everything so well, and it informed it. I understood it on a feeling, not a mental level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I grew with it in that way, and then I could come back years later and go like, okay, I can see why I attached some feelings to that, whatever those were. But to me, it is the perfect coming of age story to live through it as you're doing it. There's maybe movie shows or stuff that deal with it in a more like bop, 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 like I understand it. This is the best way to understand the feeling of that time.
Interesting.
And
Period.
That's deep.
Yeah, love it. Like, I'm like kind of like tearing up a little bit thinking back. I love it.
I feel bad bringing up this comment, but Swanky says it's interesting, but I don't know if it would be a top 10 for me. But
Which I don't get. Like, it is not a show for everybody. It was on Adult Swim, so it was another anime thing, and it just kind of came on. But it hit me at the exact right time. Had I missed it by a year either way, it might not have been on the list.
Yes, and I feel like a lot of television for a lot of people is like that, where it's like it has to get you. That I think that's my description for House. It's like it hit me at the right time for me to identify with this bigger than everybody character.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna do my number 2. We already know what my number 1 is. So, but whoop, gotta click so many buttons these days.
Yeah, you and your buttons.
My second best show of all time is Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Yeah, buddy.
And this is usually at the top of all the lists, but for good reason. I assume everybody's seen Breaking Bad.
Oh, it's my number 1.
So there we go.
There
We
we
stole
go.
each other's number
I
1.
left it off the list for the same reason I left The Office off the list, because I assumed it was going to be on everyone's.
Yeah.
Like if you could make a perfect anti-hero drama, it would be too late because Vince Gilligan already did it.
Yep.
So, and the cinematography, outrageous. Like you talk about like sitting in silence or like marinating into a scene or following a character that you've never met and builds this whole story just to be like, you know, like crashed into by Walt and his shenanigans. Mm-hmm. It has all of it. It's incredible. And like everybody knows what Breaking Bad is. I don't know if I need to pontificate on it too more, but I'll turn it over to you if you want to, since it was your number 1.
So like for me, you know, we're talking about like, it hits you at the right time in your life. I was going through a really hard time. My dad had passed away, and I'd never heard of Breaking Bad. I think it was 2 seasons were already out. And I went over to my friend's house, and he's like, hey, I know you're having a really hard time. You want to binge my favorite TV show ever?
What a heavy show. Like, my dad passed away, too. And I'm like, Breaking Bad is not the show where I go to feel good.
See, for me, it was actually perfect.
Yeah.
It was just something that I could, like, just sink into.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not often looking for feel-good TV, you know?
Sure.
And I feel like feel-good TV may have just made me feel even lower. So
Sure.
to sink into something super intense and super dramatic, and, you know, it was just, like, exactly what I needed. So I binged a crazy amount of that show with him. Like, in the 2 days in between, like, my dad passing away and the funeral. It was exactly what I needed. And then sometime thereafter, when season 3 came out on DVD, I pulled an all-nighter and just watched it like crazy. And I mean, so I think it's like a lot of times it's your memories of watching these TV shows and the space it occupies in your life. And I think like pulling an all-nighter to watch a TV series by yourself on DVD, it can be like a super fun thing to do because you just get synced into it.
It is you time.
Synced into it, sunk into it.
Yeah.
It becomes your world. And for something so dramatic and so intense like Breaking Bad, it's just kind of a beautiful thing to like let yourself be completely immersed in media. Mm-hmm. That's why we have like lists like that, right? Because we like to be immersed.
Yep.
And then from there, it became, you know, me watching it weekly, and it would just be like, all right, what day is it? All right, one more day to Breaking Bad. You know, like that's an amazing feeling. I haven't felt that way about a TV show in a long time.
Yep.
So, and Breaking Bad totally just did it.
That was the first and last time I actually watched something as it came out and like experienced like it's time. Like, like, cause I know Game of Thrones did it after. Like, it was like event television type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like me and a few of my friends were like, we would watch it as it was coming out, and then spend the next 2 hours on the phone or on Skype talking, being like, "What do you think this means?" Blah, 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 blah. You know, especially like near the end as like everything is falling apart.
Well, you know, so binging can be a beautiful thing, right? It's super fun. But then also like that week-to-week television, you know, in the last season, one of the last episodes, there's this hail of gunfire. Walt takes cover in the vehicle, and a super central character that I won't mention dies, or at least I think. And then the episode just ends, and you've got to wait a week.
You just sit on it.
That's a beautiful way to experience TV. And,
Trying to watch Lost in a binge era is the peak of showing a show that was meant to sit on.
Right.
It is because the first 15 minutes of the show is recap. The last is going to be setting up, and you get a little bit of fluff in the middle. And it was like you sat there like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And I like, so many people don't understand. Like, they're like, well, that's not a great show. Well, yeah, because you're watching it in a binge because you don't have that time. Not that Breaking Bad is that. There are episodes.
Right.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I was hoping to bring it up at some point of how the binge era now has changed how TV has to be produced, because it has to be thought of as something that people are going to watch back to back to back. Mind you, I like the fact everyone's all ticked off of The Mandalorian. They're not going to do it for all week. And then Disney Plus, like all of their shows are like, it's a weekly thing.
Yeah.
For that reason.
And it builds the hype too.
It does. Everyone's going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think Lost was great because it posed a ton of questions that it never intended to answer.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, in retrospect, that's what people rag on it for. But the reason it was so popular in the moment is because it was awesome to talk around the water cooler or at home with your family or friends or whatever, like what all the little symbols mean and what all the weird plot developments mean. And in retrospect, it's like, yeah, well, most of those things don't go anywhere. Yeah. But television is kind of about being in the moment, and in the moment, Lost was amazing for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the delay between when people do chat or whatever, Cam basically texted a paragraph that was your exact point about how Disney Plus is reintroducing the weekly experience and everything. Brad counters that's not why Disney does it week by week. That's a money thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why television did it also. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think that. Yeah. So that was my number 2 and your number 1. So let's go to your number 2.
Oh, my number 2. Oh, it's Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it's
my friend talks about that all the time.
Well, and it's so good, but it's clever. It's particularly clever in one season, and it's my favorite show because I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. Yeah. So these shows could essentially be tied. So there's one season, and I forget the season number off the top of my head, but there's one season where the character Larry David was a fictionalized version of one of the guys who created and was the showrunner of Seinfeld.
Larry David
decides to do a Seinfeld reunion episode, right? Something that would never happen in real life. So they spend the entire season trying to make this episode happen. And it's kind of like your typical like recruiting the team setup. You know, he's got to get to each of the 4 main actors and convince them to do it. Then they write the script, then they do table reads, and then they actually film the episode. So in an entire season of Curb, you get essentially one full episode of a Seinfeld reunion that could only ever happen inside another TV show.
That's very meta.
That's awesome.
And that's what Seinfeld is. That's what Seinfeld always was. It was always like commenting on itself and commenting on the form. And on the DVD of this particular season, they do a round table where all the actors get together. And I think it's Jerry who says, like, this is the only way we would have ever done a Seinfeld reunion. And because they did it the way they did it, many people don't even know that it exists. You know, like whenever there's a big reunion, especially something like Seinfeld, it would have been on, headlines and being reviewed. And this is something
gotten overhyped, and it would have always disappointed.
And because they did it the way they did it, it doesn't have to disappoint because it's almost impossible to watch it chronologically as a Seinfeld reunion episode because it happens over the course of like 8 45-minute long episodes. Or actually, Curb is 30 minutes, but besides the point.
I've only had a chance to see like the occasional episode. I love the way Larry David's brain works.
Yeah.
The way like that he just observes things and like his insecurities and the way that like he just projects it. Like George is the best character in Seinfeld because he's Larry David's proxy and he experiences all of the worst case scenarios that Larry David imagines.
Well, and there's and I always tell Seinfeld fans that they have to watch this season. Skip the rest, just shoot right to 4 or 5 or whatever it is. There's this great like ongoing joke between Larry David and Jason Alexander where Jason Alexander is like, yeah, nobody liked George. George was a loser. And Larry David gets super offended because George was based on Larry David, but he doesn't say anything to Jason Alexander, but spends the rest of the season trying to undercut Jason Alexander and make him seem less cool. So, like, in a way, it is like the ultimate Seinfeld season. Because then the actors are playing fictionalized versions of themselves, which are very similar to the characters they played on Seinfeld. So it's just like, it's working on all these different levels, and it is, I mean, it's firing on all cylinders. It is so freaking good.
That's awesome.
Possibly the best Seinfeld happens on Curb Your Enthusiasm. So check it out, everybody.
Neat.
That's awesome.
I will.
Seinfeld was one of the ones that's like, it needs to be on this list, but I couldn't find a way to put it on the list.
I agree. And I need to rewatch Seinfeld because like I watched it. I was a bit young coming out of it. So like I would watch episodes of it, but I need to watch it as a whole.
I actually didn't like it when I was a kid because I
mean,
get
who?
it, you know?
Yeah,
No.
I was definitely in high school by the time I actually started appreciating it. Like, Seinfeld changed the channel.
Yeah.
But then it's like, what have I been missing? But
Your
you have
brain
to be-
explodes. Yeah. It's such a great show. So
All right.
All right. Your number 2.
My number 2, My Hero Academia. So it is the one anime T-shirt I've ever owned that I know. Yeah, and somebody else bought it for me because I was like, I'm never gonna be the guy who's buy it, even though some of them the drip looks sweet. My Hero Academia does for me now what Dragon Ball Z did for me as a kid. So like, yes, first and foremost, the fight scenes are they clap. They are so good.
Cam's on board with this.
Thank you, Cam. Yes, it is all the things, but like as adult, like so I've watched like similar things. I even watched Dragon Ball Z, and it's like Super or whatever, and it's good, but it doesn't hit me the same way. But like I feel so self-positive after watching My Hero Academia that I'm like, I could be a hero. I can be a good person. I can stand up for the little guy, and if I work hard and grit my teeth and stand back up, I can do something. And
That's awesome.
it is so good. And I mean, it does fall into some of the anime, like it does a lot of fan service, especially now under the new animation studio. There's a few episodes where I'm like, honey, you want to just like, you do you for a little bit. And like, I know it's like, she'll walk in on a swimsuit episode every time, right? Of any anime episode that
This
I'm
isn't
ever
the
watching.
whole show, I promise.
I promise you, I'm reading it for the articles. Yeah, like Kill La Kill, like is a great series too, but it's all just like nudity. Anyways, like it is so inspiring, and they do such a good job of the characterization, and it's funny, it's action packed, the fight scenes are great. Oh, but again, it's another one of those shows that dives into people's emotions so much that like it. I don't need to go into it more than it is an absolutely inspiring show for me. I feel good after watching each show, and it's been a long time since a TV show can do that for me. The same way as like a kid where I'm like, I could be Goku, I could be the hero.
That's awesome.
And I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
That's super
so,
dope.
nice.
So I think you just get to go again because I think we.
Yeah, both
Yeah,
of you
we're
bust each
covered.
other's first
Yeah,
ones.
Keith and I had some overlap, so you get to do your number 1 now.
So, number 1 is another show that could not exist without another stellar show. It's on every top 10 anime list, probably every top 3 anime list for the show that I think is the predecessor. So, my top one is Samurai Champloo, which could not exist without ones that maybe as much as oh my god, I've forgotten the name of it. Why can I not? Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yeah, Cowboy Bebop is great.
Cowboy Bebop is one of the reasons it's off the list is because it was a show my cousin Andrea watched, and like I was introduced through it. So like in my mind, that's her favorite show. So like I feel like even like years and years later, even though I love it and appreciate it, my buddy Steve Rebhan's huge into it. I think it's a phenomenal show. But again, it's been talked to death. It's on everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think Spike lived. There we go. Anyways,
Swanky says, I love shonen anime, still watching One Piece, 1,000th episode in November.
yeah,
It
yeah.
says, Samurai Champloo is a great anime. Cowboy Bebop is his favorite, though.
Okay, and I can understand that.
So is this similar to Cowboy Bebop?
It
in
is.
certain
It is
ways?
very similar in a lot of the pacing where Cowboy Bebop. So the reason why it's probably number 1, honestly, when he said make a list, he texted me. It is just the first one that comes to my head. I have more emotional attachment to other ones. I have better reasons to like other ones. This is always the first one that pops to my head, and I don't know exactly why, but I think it's because it checks all the boxes. It's a short series. It knew where it was going. It is like kind of in Gravity Falls or Cowboy Bebop or these shows where there's little breadcrumbs sprinkled throughout. Like you don't necessarily need to watch them, and like something happens in it, and you don't realize until the end all of the stuff that happened before that led to this. It's only the last, like Cowboy Bebop, the last 2 episodes of it are the accumulation of everything else, and everything else was you felt was very episodic. but it all leads to something. The characters are so much fun. Mugen is by far one. I've almost like got the tattoos 100 times and just never buckled down because I don't want to spend that much ink on a single color. And you know, and for like a permanent cosplay. But I relate to Mugen so much in a lot of ways too, where it's one of those shows where they grow together. It's one of the first ones where like at the end they've done their piece and they walk away from each other. And it, like I said, I think the reason why it's my number one, it's the first thing I go to. I watch it probably once a year, if not twice a year. The fight scenes are phenomenal. The characterizations is a ton of fun. It's crass. It's fun. It's bloody. The soundtrack is amazing to it. It's like all hip hop and stuff. Like it does really good of like showing like other like cultural aspects of like keeping in this like Edo area period. You know, I just think it's like all the little things that I like in whole, where maybe another show does it better. This has it all.
Awesome.
You know, so I think
It's
that
like best all around.
it is the best. It's, you know, you get your Neapolitan ice cream.
Yep.
They're all good on their own. Chocolate is good. Like, there's a better chocolate than Neapolitan. There's a better vanilla. But as a whole, to check all of my boxes, Samurai Champloo is number one.
I've got a lot of anime to check out now. Sorry.
You bringing up Neapolitan ice cream reminds me of The Simpsons.
Orange, bread, and chocolate vanilla ice cream.
Because he only eats the chocolate.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Oh my god! And for the same reason, that's why I picked The Simpsons. Whenever someone says best TV show of all time, the first thing that happens is The Simpsons. So, Brad says best intro music.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I am just real quick going to open up my not quite top 10 and just go over mine real quick here. So Futurama was my number 11. Probably next to The Simpsons, the thing I've rewatched the most. I don't think that, like, it's one of those things, like, if you watch a few episodes and like it, you're gonna love the whole thing.
Yep.
So definitely check it out. The Sopranos, before Breaking Bad, would have been Breaking Bad to me.
Yeah, it's like the original modern anti-hero show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One Punch Man is...
Yes. I read the manga, but yes.
So One Punch Man was my first exposure to playing with the superhero form. Like, in a nutshell, One Punch Man, just a normal dude that wants to do good.
You've pitched this to me before, actually. You've given me what the elevator pitch is. I kind of remember it.
Yeah, so, and then, like, it's dealing with what happens once you're the most powerful being.
Yeah,
right?
And how
it's
boring.
like most things are like, how do I become the most powerful? That all happened in the past. He is so powerful that, like, he's just bored.
Yeah,
he's
the fact that Genos is almost used as like they're like, well, we need someone to have personal growth.
Yeah,
So Genos is gonna be that. Well, he's just like, oh yeah.
He's like, oh, we're gonna miss the sale.
Hota Genos. Yeah. I can do it.
Very, very good. Monk. I'm rewatching Monk now. So Tony Shalhoub, fantastic in it. You know, it's a monster of the week. It's a crime of the week thing or whatever with this overarching storyline with his wife, but a completely broken man who can only do one thing, and he has to do that one thing. Like, if he didn't solve crimes, like, he would just become completely useless. And it's like his character is so interesting to me, and it's a legitimately funny and interesting show. Burn Notice. I don't know if either of you are familiar with Burn Notice.
Heard of it, haven't watched it.
Yeah, I've seen like previews and stuff before.
So Burn Notice is one of those things where it's like, when I started watching, it's like, this is kind of whatever, but it's just one of those shows that, like, consistently performed better than I thought it would. Like, when I'd watch it, it was like, this, like, presented in a way that I'd never seen a show presented before. A concept was like, oh, a spy, but is not spying on some foreign country or whatever. He's like just using spycraft to get through his day-to-day life. Super interesting. Digimon, you had mentioned. Louis, I know that Louis C.K. isn't like super great anymore, but
he got canceled, I guess.
But hilarious comedian, great show. Like, the way, like, he wrote, directed, and edited like every episode.
Oh, did he really? I didn't know that.
And obviously appeared in it, and just like the way is in a similar way that, like, so Larry David used George as a proxy of himself to deal with these like weird thoughts or whatever. This is like a weird alternate reality Louis C.K. where it's like, what if all these weird, like, surrealistic things happened? Very good show. Rick and Morty, again,
Yep, I mean,
changed what you could do with an animated cartoon show for 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Top Gear.
Yeah, I remember Top Gear.
Like,
very specific episodes of Top Gear that I like. I like the stupid challenges. You got $400, buy your first car.
Yep.
Those are the only ones I watch.
So, like, there's like 20 series of that before they all left to go to Amazon, and their Amazon show is pretty good too. But the presenters from Top Gear, hilarious people, great show. And then the thing that I probably have watched on YouTube the most, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Probably the most consistently watched thing. And I know all the jokes, and it's still always funny because these are such Americans don't appreciate improv as much as they should, I think.
Yeah.
I used to watch that show all the time.
Yeah,
like,
I loved
us
it.
too.
The cleverness and and I understand it's edited for TV. There's bits that don't make it or whatever, but like 4 genuinely hilarious people just riffing with each other is like, it's like life goals type of thing or whatever, you know. So that's rounds out my not quite top 10, but pretty dang good and should be watched list.
Well, that you putting that one on there actually reminds me of America's Funniest Home Videos. If America's Funniest Home Videos is on, I am watching it.
Yep.
That was
Absolutely
YouTube
for
before
sure.
I was going to say,
YouTube.
it's too bad YouTube came in because that was such a family thing. Like, that's
Yeah.
what we
Oh,
did as a
yeah.
family.
Yep.
And you would
Same.
laugh at people getting hit in the nads all
Yeah.
the time. And,
all
like,
the time.
absolutely.
Great stuff. Anyway, other runners-up. I kind of talked about a lot of these already, but Tales from the Crypt, Black Mirror, The Office, Seinfeld, Pen 15. Didn't talk about that at all.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a newer show, and it is hilarious.
Okay.
2 gals our age in their 30s play their middle school selves with a supporting cast of all like actual middle schoolers. So it is super awkward, super funny.
Awesome.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Great show.
Let's see, The Wire, Ozark, Good Girls, Mandalorian, Lore, which is a great docuseries carrying the torch from Unsolved Mysteries.
I left that off a podcast because it's a podcast. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Lore and all of.
The podcast is wonderful. The TV show it's like the podcast with super clever
Cabinet of
animation.
Curiosities. Anything that guy touches is
Yeah.
really interesting. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Totally agree. And some reality stuff like Great British Baking Show and Making It.
Yep, Great British Baking Show is so good.
Really good stuff. And that's all I got.
Hoarders is my trashy show. I love
Oh,
watching
yeah,
Hoarders.
Hoarders
Anyways,
is
So, can I
for it.
take?
Yep.
Sorry, I don't want. I'm just gonna take this for 1 second, and I feel like I've talked to you about this before. The greatest trash television show of all time. Oh, why can't I remember the name of it now?
What's it about?
So the whole concept, it's a game show, right? If you don't, it's all about people that have not, or they're behind on their payment on their car. They're gonna go get it towed away, get it repo games.
Oh, yeah. You've told me about this. I don't know
Yes.
if I've ever watched it.
It's absolutely terrible. It is the worst grade. It is class F TV. But, so it's basically it's like Keith can't pay the banknote on his car. They zip up, get it up on the tow truck. They go in, knock on the door. They're like, hey, Keith, taking your car. You freak out, obviously, because you want them to take your car. He's like, well, calm down. I'm going to play a trivia game with you. If you get 3 out of 5 questions
God.
right, multiple choice, 3 out of 5 general knowledge multiple choice questions, not only will they not take your car, they will pay it off.
That's freaking crazy.
And it's like a 50-50 success rate. And this will be, here's the example of the question. It's like, who was the first president of the United States? George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, or Benjamin Franklin?
Oh, no.
And sometimes it's like 3 people playing together. And they still don't get it right.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so it's like
No.
the worst type of people. Because they're already irresponsible. They're not paying for their car, right? Granted, life circumstances happen. I'm not going to say they're all terrible human beings, but some you can tell that they're just not good people.
yeah.
And then they're jerks to the guy who's gonna repo their car until he's like, we'll pay it off if you get it right. Then they're super friendly, and then as soon as they lose, they go back to being jerks. And it's the
Just
worst
trash.
show.
Just trash.
Oh,
I
Oh,
love it.
It is pure garbage, but I've seen every episode.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
And it only ran for like 2 seasons. But it, like, if you just want empty calorie TV, that's the peak.
Repo games.
Repo games.
Nice.
All right, sorry, I didn't mean, but
No.
that reminded me of that.
That is okay. So some of the ones that didn't get in there, and I'm gonna try to run through quick, and not name of the stuff that like has already been talked about. Svengoolie. Absolutely love Svengoolie.
Wow.
The only reason I miss your guys' show
That's
sometimes is
awesome.
because I'm watching Svengoolie. It's such a. But now that I'm playing this on Cat 7, I can watch episodes that I've missed on Cat 7. So now,
he's like one of
the best
like,
horror hosts.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he's not one of the original, but like he's certainly a seminal horror host.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome choice.
I found it like while we were camping one time. It was just something that kind of came on, and there was an episode where like these frogs running across the TV. I'm like, what on earth is this? And it sucked me in. And I love all those campy stuff. It's everything. It has information. It has the facts. It has the dad jokes.
What is it? Dr. Clutch, Mr. Clutch.
Yeah, I run his show on. Yep.
I mean, he's like carrying on the tradition of Sven Gulli.
Hello.
Sure.
Well, because when I started working there, I wanted to start up a horror host show because it's always been my dream of mine to do one of those things.
Yeah.
And then just through Twin Ports Horror Society, I was like, oh wait, there's already a dude doing this. Like he reached out to me after getting the interviews for Twin Ports Terror, or Horror Society up, and I was like, oh well, yeah, this is exactly what we wanted for us. So yes, Uncle Clutch's video horror shop. Shout out to that. But Sherlock was on there. The IT crowd.
Great
Oh,
show.
Phenomenal.
Dang it, Ross. Roy. That's it. Roy.
Have you tried turning it off and turning it on again?
Have you tried turning it off and on again? Good Omens, Walking Dead, Teen Titans, Schitt's Creek. Did a very good job of handling some harder situations on there. I thought that was really well done. Is it? It's not Peaks?
Twin Peaks?
Scrub? No. Oh, well, Twin Peaks. Yes, I did finally watch it. It took me forever. This is a British show, and it's the one. Are we the baddies?
Peaky Blinders?
Not Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
No, it's just a comedy. Just degenerate roommates living together. What is it?
That has to be a different show.
Perks, Peaks, something like that. But yep. So, but a lot of the other ones that were on my list were there. We've talked about, but
all right, one more British show to pitch. It stars David Mitchell, who you probably have never heard of, but he's a British comedian and television presenter now. But it's called Peep Show. And
that's the one I was trying to tell.
Oh,
yes,
is that it?
Peep Show. That's it. Peep Show.
Yeah. So every shot is from the point of view of one of the characters in the scene.
Oh, really? Oh,
There's no third person cameras in the entire thing. So
oh man,
it's David Mitchell. I can't remember his character's name, but his friend's name is Jezzer. Jeremy, like Jezzer, you piece of crap, or whatever.
Yeah,
so, but it's great.
Is it always clear what character, like which character?
It's not confusing at all.
Man, because editorially, I would assume that there'd be a lot of challenges with that.
Yeah, I feel like it's super clear all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, a buddy of mine had talked to me about it. I was like, oh, that sounds like what. And then I watched it on Netflix. He's like, this show's amazing.
It is, but it is. It puts you in some very cringy moment because like you're in that person's body as they're doing this thing. And it's not like you're watching so it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That needs to be on my list.
That's a great show.
Yep. Yeah. Another one that can get away with saying a message without saying it, like South Park. But yeah, like because now like you are living this person's most awkward experience,
right?
In it, and none of them are great people. And anytime you think like, oh, I feel bad for this one, you realize, oh, you're also just a degen. Like Letterkenny, speaking of degens, Letterkenny's another great series.
Did they use, I'm sorry, I got to go back to this. Did they use a lot of mirrors to like establish who you're seeing, who you're seeing through?
So usually like if you and I were having a conversation, it would just start with a shot of you and you would hear my voice as I'm saying whatever, and then it just cut to your POV looking back at me.
Right.
So it's like
within
the first couple of cuts, you know all what's going on.
And once you know the format of the show.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say like,
and there are mirror shots for sure.
Yeah.
Which are probably the most impossible shots to pull off. It's like, how do we get a POV of someone looking at themselves in the mirror without seeing the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, Peep Show. That is it. Yep, that's the one I've been trying to remember for a long time.
This is intriguing. I gotta watch this.
Good. It makes you feel ucky, and it's a character show like Parks and Rec, where like 100%. The more you know about the character, the more it builds. Like Seinfeld's okay if you catch an episode, but it's hilarious if you know. Okay, because of this and this and that. So definitely one of those shows, but absolutely worth a watch.
Nice.
Oh no.
Oh, Brad says, I'm glad no one picked my 600-pound line. So a little bit of chat. He also said earlier, I want to do a series with Netflix called Canceled, where everyone that's been canceled in Hollywood, he would hire to play themselves, and the first episode would be Louis doing his thing.
Oh God.
Swanky says the best thing about anime/animation is your creativity is endless. No restraints from silly stuff like physics or safety.
Yep.
Why enjoy animation more than live action, especially with the surreal looks you can give characters to overemphasize emotions. I think One Punch Man does that hilariously.
Oh.
Like when he's like in intense mode, it looks like every action anime you've ever seen. But then sometimes it's like his head is literally just like a circle, 2 dots in it sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Swanky says we should get them to name their top 10 reality shows just for fun. I think Top Gear technically counts as a reality. What are these shows?
That's the other problem.
Okay, so Cam, in no particular order. Frasier, great show. Psych, great show. Eureka, Firefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Firefly
Neon
was
Genesis,
awesome.
Neon Genesis and Evangelon. Oh, if I could say that. Scorpion, Numbers, fantastic. If you haven't seen Numbers, it's really, really good. House, Monster, the anime. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. That was a show I loved growing up.
I used to watch that show as a kid too. Yeah.
Runners-up are Warehouse 13, Burn Notice, My Hero Academia, NCIS, regardless of flavor. I liked the original NCIS. Stargate SG-1, The Mandalorian, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Sherlock. And, Cheers. That was a great show, too.
Yeah, Cheers is awesome. But, man, a flood of, like, childhood memories came back with Young Indiana Jones.
Yep.
I remember discovering it and being like, wait, there's more?
Yeah.
You know? Like, it was like it blew my brain.
Alf. Oh, I loved Alf. Is a great show.
I used to love Alf, too, as a
I
kid.
missed that age-wise. I was just...
I didn't watch it until I was in my 20s on DVD.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
really? I only saw it as a kid. I haven't watched it in 30 years.
Oh, it's so great. I'm Gordon Shumway from the planet Melmac. It's so good. It 100% cheesy 80s. Like, it's got like that saxophone intro.
Yeah.
And
The Goldberg, speaking of cheesy 80s.
Yeah, the Goldbergs
what a
is really good.
wonderful show.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
It's really...
need to see, especially the stuff that we've been bringing up. It's us as kids, except in
It's very nostalgic, for sure.
Swanky wants to know if anyone remembers The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
No.
Adventure
so
Time
Gus says Briscoe was
really
awesome,
good.
so somebody does, but just not one of us.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like reality TV, if there's anything really beyond...
I mean...
Like Great British Baking Show might be considered reality.
Yeah.
I think it's reality TV. That's my favorite,
if there's,
for sure.
I like... Oh, man. I'd have to sit on that one. I don't know if I could pull them off the top of my head, because it's not something I go to.
There's not an outrageous amount that I can really think of either.
Masked Singer on Fox. That's pretty good. I don't know if that's on this season.
Here, and I understand I've probably misunderstood the concept. But I don't know who's singing. That's called the radio.
No, see,
Like,
that's not the appeal though. The appeal is like how amazing the costume design is.
No, I don't care. It's so
really?
dumb to me. It's to me, I can't.
See, I
Like,
liked it.
I didn't know that was Britney Spears under there because I couldn't see your face. Well, you don't see her face on the bloody radio either. Like, I know.
Wow.
I
Man,
did it
reality
again.
show rage. No, I have reality show rage too. I don't know. I just thought that the creature design in it was super cool. I didn't watch more than 2 or 3 episodes, but it looked cool.
I think so. Penn and Teller Fool Us, I think would technically be that's sort of game showy, but it's like
Yeah, I don't know what you call that.
whatever that is. I love that show.
Yeah.
I love magic. But otherwise, oh crap! I just had one and I can't remember what it is. Gosh. So like if we're talking like singing competition things or talent, America's Got Talent, I think is the better of, because you get a variety of things. You get comedians, you get people that walk on their hands through coals or something. It's not. I could give a crap less about singers.
Yeah, but the
Every
singers are
talent
still
show
the
has
only ones
singers.
that
I get
win.
it. 90% of the world's population can sing. I'm over it.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched America's Got Talent or The Voice. I used to see American Idol on because my mom and sister loved it. So it would be like on, and I'd be kind of like aware of some of the names and stuff. But like most of those shows, I've never even watched.
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't have even watched America's Got Talent if my roommate at the time and his girlfriend weren't watching. I just walked in on somebody doing something random, like, "Oh, we just started the episode. If you want to watch."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll check it out." And then like we watched probably like I want to say like 2 or 3 seasons like as they came out together throughout the course of time that I spent with them. It was like fairly solid. Like I said,
that's
like,
kind of how Big Brother happened.
So there's one on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen like the poster. It's a dating show called Sexy Beast, and a friend recommended
That
it to
I was
my
gonna
wife.
say I would be in that for the.
It's
yeah.
like Masked Singer in that it's like they have like Hollywood like Hellboy level like makeup designers coming on and like disguising these people, and then they go through your typical like bachelor BS or go to an island. I don't really know what they do, but they like.
But one
do
looks like
dates.
a rat person, and another one's like a fish person.
Yeah, and they look like demons and stuff, and so you know at least like the design is super interesting in that.
Yeah.
We're getting some other mentions of shows. So In Living Color was a pretty good. I like.
Oh
In Living
yeah,
Color.
that's where
Jim Carrey got his start.
Yeah, Jim Carrey. Yep.
X-Files. I never really got into X-Files. Was too scary for me growing up, and now is like too dated for me to really.
Sure.
I tried getting into it, and it's like, eh.
I hit that right at the right sweet spot where I was old enough to watch it, but it was horrifying.
Sure.
And it played into my whole like unsolved mysteries, like fascination with UFOs and stuff. So like those were great companion series for me as like a middle school, early high school kid.
And then Friends. I love Friends. I've seen every episode multiple times. I think like it's one of those like cliche is always at the top of lists things.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I have a personal connection to it that was better than the top 20 that I presented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my wife's favorite TV show, so I watch a lot of it. It's just good. It's feel good, fun, comfort food.
Could I be wearing any more shirts?
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
The
another
holiday
quotable.
armadillo. There's just like a lot of memorable moments. It's
You
fun.
ate my moist maker.
I was gonna say, like, it being a Joey, like, there's no denying that on my end. Like, yeah, my wife, I took a long time. Like, oh, that's a chick show. I don't. And I'm not usually that type of person to like gender a show, but I'm like, nah, it wouldn't be funny to me. Whatever, love it, and I do. But right, like, it's on every top 10. So
It is. Yeah.
Brad. The Cosby Show is not even funnier now.
I haven't watched that one.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I think I watched it, but yeah.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had some moments.
Yeah, I mean, that was one that I watched religiously as a kid and have not gone back to at all.
What about the Temple of Doom, where you would run through the chorus and on Nickelodeon?
What? It's called something else. Legends of the Hidden
Legends of the
Temple.
Hidden Temple. That's it.
Yeah, I
that
like
was
that show.
that was cool.
That was good.
All that was kind of funny. It was like the Nickelodeon's version of like SNL.
That's where Keenan and Kel came from.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yep. What is it? Come on and jam.
Yeah, some of these
That's it.
early cable era things I didn't have.
Right. It was every
Yeah.
other weekend for me, so I would catch snippets.
Oh, nice.
Rocco's Modern Life. Rocco. Oh, come on, Heifer.
Sequest, DSV. Okay, I have a story about Sequest. So Sequest used to be on at the same time, I believe, as Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Great show.
And so my sister always wanted to watch Sequest, the farly inferior show, whereas I wanted to watch the superior Lois and Clark. And we would fight about it every week. And it got to the point where we had to watch it every other week. And it's like, I can't see every other episode of Superman.
Yeah.
So, and like, it is like one of those things where like kind of like the Back to the Future is like, we didn't have 2 TVs.
Yeah.
So
And there
we
was
just
no
had to,
way to rewatch
No.
it.
yeah. So we just had to deal with watching Sequest. I'm
There's
sure it's a
actually-
fine show, but I have bad memories associated with it.
There's a new Lois and Clark on CW that is actually pretty good. I don't know if you guys watch any of the CW superhero shows.
Everything starts so strong, and then
does.
it turns into drama mama so fast.
Yep. So that's why I only watched the first season or a few seasons of any of them.
Like
But
Flash,
there's,
Gotham, any of that.
Gotham I couldn't do, and I'm a Batman guy, but I could not.
How do
do
you
Gotham.
feel about Smallville?
I watched it because my friends were obsessed with it, and they made me, and they basically tied me down and said, "You will love this." So I've seen a couple seasons, and there were moments where I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. I can see that this is leading somewhere." But I mean, I think ultimately the problem was that like they had a super popular show that was leading towards this definitive moment, but they could never get there because it was super popular.
Right, because
So
they had to
just-
keep pushing in extra stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree completely. It's
So
like it
if
should have
they
been
had-
like 3 seasons and it went like 8 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
And even if it was 3 seasons, it was not great. You know,
Yeah.
it was watchable.
Yeah,
Two
those-
shows that I'm surprised haven't brought up, both of which I haven't watched, one on purpose, and the other one just because I've heard it was such trash. My roommate started watching it. Like, I was introduced to it during the trashy area, was Supernatural.
I haven't
Oh,
seen it.
yeah.
My
where
sister-
it's like
seen
it's the
some of
monster
that.
of the week.
Yeah, my
It's
sister loves it. I know that.
and I
Yeah.
hear up into it's like season 7 or 8, and if I can find where the cutoff point is, and just know that as soon as that season is done, I'm turning it off and I'm never watching it again.
Yeah.
I think I'd watch it, but I also know like it is one of those shows that stretched on way too long, way past its prime. They started just jumping the shark, and then Doctor Who is one I chose not to watch just because I have so many other fandoms. I don't need
Yeah.
another
Well,
one.
yeah,
Didn't
I'm in
love
exact
the.
same thing. So again,
Yep.
so Supernatural and Doctor Who are both shows that my sister absolutely loves
Mm-hmm.
and bothers me about, and it's like I don't have time to invest.
Yep.
All like I see people, I see Whovians
I get
at
your
cons
quotes, and that's
stuff,
about it.
And it's like I get that is a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's an iceberg that I don't want to crash into
Yes.
right now.
I feel
Yes.
the same way. I've got
Star
a
Trek.
friend from back home that's super into it, and one day he kind of gave me a best of like several different Doctors, just like the best of, each individual series, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I could see myself getting into this, but it's the iceberg. I'm
Yep.
like, I can't get into this. I don't want to invest the time.
No.
And I get that you love it, but yeah,
Yeah. Same thing. Like
probably not gonna
I
do it.
understand it's a thing.
yeah.
It's just not. I'm choosing for it to not be my thing. I've got 100
Right.
other things I
Oh,
like. So
Brad, I don't know if you want to say that on the internet. You might get traced down and burned.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that all three of us in the room at least feel the same way
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
It seems good. I'm a nerd and I like nerd stuff. I'm just not gonna like that nerd thing.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm fine with it being an active choice. Like,
Yeah.
like I just have chosen that is not what I'm gonna pick.
Right.
Even though I know it's probably wonderful, but Star Trek's the same. I've tried because I don't know where to get into Star
TNG.
Trek.
So yeah, see,
The Next Generation, yeah.
that's
it's just,
what was coming out when I was a kid. So that's what I kind of was aware of. And every episode I've ever seen, I think, is awesome.
Okay.
I just haven't watched a ton of it.
I watched the one that comes on
It's-
after Svengoolie with anyway, it doesn't matter.
Shatner?
Yeah,
That's the
Shatner.
original
Yeah.
Star Trek.
And it's fun. Like, it's dorky. It's something.
They're
but
fun. They're pretty cheesy. I think Next Generation is the perfect blend of cheesy, but also like compelling storytelling.
Yeah, like if you want to talk about a show that explores like humanity
Yeah.
and like the issues of the day in a way that you don't realize you're being taught a lesson.
Yeah, they
Very
could do a
good.
lot of stuff because it was in the future and it was in space and yeah.
Yeah.
So they got away with a lot of a lot of interesting social issues.
yeah, the big kiss. Yeah.
the big kid. I don't know. About
Where
the
it was
big
like the
kiss.
first interracial kiss on
Oh
TV.
yeah, Shatner and
They did. Oh, that was on Star Trek. See,
Yep.
I didn't
Yep.
even know that.
Yep.
That's really cool.
So actually, I was talking to my sister about her like top 10 list, and so she actually has Star Trek Enterprise above regular Next Generation. She says the only thing that she likes better about Next Generation is the theme song, the title thing. Enterprise has the worst intro. It's like a pop song over like maps and compasses and boats
Oh,
and stuff.
no.
It's terrible, and it's like 1 minute and 18 seconds. The Next Generation's theme song's 1:45,
Man.
but it's amazing. It's like, our mission is to boldly go when no one's gone before. Bah, da, 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 da. It's so good. Looks like Sam Wild says,
Oh, hi, Sam.
Office UK, not US. Golden Girls, yes.
Yeah.
Billions, Flesh and Bone. Home Movies is a great show.
Yeah.
Hey Arnold, The Surreal Life, The Americans,
Hey Arnold,
Saxondale, and Skins.
Man, I remember Hey Arnold. That was a good show.
Yeah, Swanky says Enterprise is my most hated Star Trek. Enterprise is a divisive Star Trek. The Wonder Years, Saint Hill Blues, Taxi. Taxi is a good one.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of Taxi, but I remember it coming on one day and I was like blown away by how many huge stars were in it. And it was really good. It was like super gritty, which I appreciated.
Yeah, that was like
I gotta get
Andy
into it more.
Kaufman's last like mainstream thing.
Yeah, and then like Danny DeVito's in it, right? And
Christopher
Lloyd. I feel like there's other people.
It's
too.
I don't want to say. I'm not going to guess, but there's a lot of people. What's up?
So I just remembered a chunk. So I was thinking of, like, it was like, Hey Arnold came up, and I was like, shows I would still watch. I actually did just buy a DVD collection of one of these three. But, like, were instrumental in my childhood were Ed, Ed and Eddie,
Yeah.
Courage the Cowardly Dog,
Yep.
and Invader Zim.
Invader Zim is like the peak. Didn't last long enough show for me.
I actually.
I was a jerky all along. Like,
There's a very compelling fan theory. What's the name of the kid that's always trying to bust him?
Dirk, I know it.
Whatever it is, his dad, he's the big shot scientist man.
Mm-hmm.
There's a theory that he is also an alien, and he's just showing them alien technology to advance the world. Because like you never see his face and all this stuff. Like there's
Diz.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I liked that the superiority is based off of who's the tallest. Like the only reason my tallest. But yes,
It's a world you would hate to live.
I would hate to. Yes, I would be bottom rung. Like I get Zim. I'm like, fine, I will come here and I'm gonna. But I talk about like edgelordy. Like I just like quote that, thinking I was so cool, and I loved it. But yeah, Ed and Eddie was wonderful. Chickens. Like I love that show, and Encourage the Cowardly Dog. Talk about a wonderful.
That's my favorite of
That's
those
the one I
three
got a
that
collection series.
I love Courage. Courage
like
is awesome.
$25 right now online. You can get the whole
Nice.
the whole
I
thing.
can tell you right now, I'm probably not going to buy that, but I do love this show. It's a great show.
It is good.
They knock it down to $9.99. I'm
Yeah.
in.
I might. We'll see.
Swanky says, if miniseries count, I loved watching the V miniseries in the 80s.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
He also wants to know if we've heard about the Ed, and Eddie theory that all the kids were dead and stuck in limbo. I've not heard that.
I've not heard that
but
either.
it sounds like an interesting theory. Fairly Odd Parents is another one that that's one that really it does hit that like formulaic thing where it's like he makes a wish, it backfires, you have to solve the problem, then everything's back to normal at the end.
Yep.
Like it is literally the same episode over and over again, but it's funny.
And
Do you guys
still
remember
use the
Dexter's Lab?
Yes.
at all?
Yes.
Love
Dexter's Lab
Dexter's
was
Lab.
kind of in that same era of Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Yep, they're because they are like, everyone gets pilot episode. Johnny Bravo, hey there, pretty mobile.
Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, Johnny Bravo rocked. But yeah, Dexter's Lab was a ton of fun. Right, like it was all in that era of like everyone got a pilot and whatever. Cow and Chicken was in there, and that was iffy with that one. Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
That was a funny show.
That was good.
I
Sea
just
Lab
rem-
2020. Was that what it was called?
Yeah.
2020.
Yep, Sea Lab
yeah.
2020. Aqua Team Hunger Force.
Oh my god.
Meatball.
Yeah, I've got a lot of good memories of
Oh
that
my
show.
gosh.
So
Shakes.
It's a show that I enjoy immensely, but I don't know how I would rank it. But like basically any iteration of Scooby Doo.
I made a big mistake recently. There was a new version on Netflix, and my niece was visiting, and she spotted it and suggested. She's 8, and my 3-year-old was in the room. I'm like, yeah, new Scooby Doo. Click, and we put it on, and there's this like super scary monster that drops Velma like out of a window, and my daughter started crying, and I was like, this was a big mistake.
Yeah,
I turned it right off. It was a bit more scary than I remembered it being. Granted, this is the new version, not like the version that I grew up on.
Yeah, because I grew up on the 60s Hanna-Barbera ones.
Yeah.
And then there's like What's New Scooby-Doo, and then a pup named Scooby-Doo, underrated.
Yeah.
Not
Never seen it.
phenomenal.
No, but
pretty
underrated
good.
for sure. Yep.
But there's Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Never seen that either.
So that one, there's actually a through line throughout it's not just Monster of the Week, and that was like, and it's more modern day. They're in high school.
Yeah.
They're not just going out to creepy barns in the middle of Nebraska or whatever.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I feel like they were supposed to get another season, and then they had to wrap it up faster than they thought that they were going to.
Thundercats is another one that no one remembers, but I loved.
I remember Thundercats. I had the toys. Yeah.
Oh, not Thundercats. Sorry. But no, Thundercats was good. SWAT Cats is what I was thinking.
That I do not remember.
It was 2 anthropomorphic cats. One was skinny, one was a bigger dude. They flew jets and had motorcycles. That's all I remember. But they were super
That's all you
cool.
need when you're 6 years old.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, Thundercats was good. Watched a lot of not He-Man. They had some of those Hanna-Barbera ones where there was like 2 glob peoples, and he'd have this big club, and it was kind of like Shazam, where he'd grab onto this club and what was it? And I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna remember it. Doesn't matter. It was one of those old Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, so did I end up having the oldest TV show on the list? MASH?
I don't.
MASH probably.
I had Twilight Zone.
Oh no, that's right.
Twilight Zone
yep.
was probably a bit older
Definitely.
than
Yep.
MASH.
No,
Yep.
you're right.
You're right.
So, yeah, just people coming in with more things. Okay, so I think we're about Tailspin. Yeah, we're talking like early 90s.
Yeah,
we have to. I'm going to sing it.
Darkwing Duck, that was my favorite of that group of shows. Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of Disney when growing up in that era. So, like, I knew I watched some Tailspin, some Chip and Dale, but, like, I never...
DuckTales.
DuckTales, that's what it is.
Woo.
DuckTales, yeah. And that's all they can do, otherwise we're going to be sued.
Yeah, exactly. Disney, don't take my money.
Yeah. Now we're just like, this is where my mind was going as we were trying to get this list. I'm like, there's 1,000 things I love.
Yeah.
Now we're just
But-
let's list every TV show we can ever think of.
Ever
that's
laid
pretty much
eyes
where
on.
we're at
All right,
this
so
point.
we're going to be wrapping up now. So we're going to do the thing again where comment topics that you want to hear us discuss. Jeremy and Kara, I think you're going to be back next week. Otherwise, I don't know who will be here. But comment what you want to hear us discuss next week. The last person to comment with a discussion topic before I hit the end card will be the topic that we discuss. So go ahead and start lighting that up. But thank you guys so much for watching and joining us live in our super extra long jumbo edition episode of TV shows.
Every time I'm here, sorry.
If you like this video, give it a like. It shows you want to see more content like this in the future. Comment down below with your list of your top 10 favorite TV shows. Argue against any of our picks. Suggest things that we totally missed. Explain why we're idiots. All of that down there in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already. Ring the notification bell to be notified every time we upload a new video or go live. We think it's a pretty good time hanging out with us live. I don't know about you, but anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching. And of course...
May the force be with you.